traveling back in time with the Fixed Ops Roundtable Back to the 80s event. Pick up your Walkmans and press play on your favorite tunes. Ready to rock is thebomb.com, Cara Delaine.
Good morning and welcome back to the 80s with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Can you believe it's our 20th event? I'm your co-host, Cara Delaine. Join our community and take a step back in time with us because we're walking on sunshine for the first day of our totally tubular event. So what are you waiting for? Grab your neon clothes and your hairspray and join us for the Fixed Ops Roundtable Back to the 80s event. This event is thebomb.com. Keep up with the hype by using the chat feature on the right side of your screen. Just make sure to select everyone and not just host and panelist. Opening our event is the president and CEO of Carter Myers Automotive, Liza Borches, with a stellar introduction to kick off our morning, followed by our keynote speaker, Robert Migliaccio.
Welcome, everybody, to the 20th Fixed Ops Roundtable. We are so honored at Carter Myers Automotive to have been a part of this Fixed Ops Roundtable for quite a few years. I personally have taken away many great ideas, actionable ideas, not just great ideas, but things we've been able to implement in our dealership, in our parts and service departments specifically, better ways to serve our associates, our customers, and our communities. And I want to thank all of you all who are participating today and over the next couple of days in the Fixed Ops Roundtable for helping us have become a better company over the last couple of sessions that we've been a part of. You know, our mission at CMA is to move lives forward. And one of our leaders will be with all of you today to share a little bit more about the training and growth opportunities that we offer in our company. You know, giving our associates opportunities such as participating and speaking at conferences just like this one is a great way to encourage and support their abilities to lead our team, as well as a way to share our story. You know, sharing our story really helps us connect with other like-minded leaders in the auto industry, both to collaborate with, and in some cases, those leaders are recruited and come join our company, like the one you're going to hear from in just a few minutes. You know, speaking of industry leaders who we're honored to connect and collaborate with, Ted just finished the first pop-up event at Bozart Ford Lincoln with Ed Roberts and the incredible team down in Florida. Now, if you didn't catch it live, you're going to see a few parts of it today on the Fixed Ops Roundtable, but you can also watch the full recording at another time. As I said, today is the 20th Fixed Ops Roundtable, and I have the privilege of introducing to you your first keynote speaker, Rob Migliaccio. He is one of our service directors at Carter Myers Automotive. Rob joined us a little over a year ago. I think it's been about 15 months, and he joined us as a service manager. But in that 15 months, he has become a leader across our entire service manager group. He's helped encourage our other managers in new ways to connect through social media. He's brought best practices that he's implemented in his dealership to other service departments in our company. And today, he's going to share a few of those ideas with you all. I'm going to let him share more about his story. So now, here's Rob.
Welcome back to the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Robert Miggs from Carter Myers Automotive is with us. Keynote today. Robert, congratulations to you on all the success that you are having, and welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
I appreciate it, Ted. Thanks for having me, and great to be here, sir.
I remember the conversation last year that you and I had with Ed Roberts, and you were just getting started. I saw you maybe for the first couple times on social media, and Robert, you know, what a strategy you've got. You're everywhere now on social media. You're on all the platforms, you know, with the business stuff, your personal growth, you know, congratulations and development on that. You're on TikTok, you're everywhere.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, no, it's been pretty phenomenal. You know, I kind of jumped in when I moved down here to CMA and really decided to kind of take it serious and take the plays that I saw from the sales side and how they were doing things, and sales staff and different stores posting regularly on that. And I figured, why can't we do that in fixed ops and, you know, take it to a different level? And yeah, it kind of worked out because I used the power influence there. I tagged you and Ed Roberts in a post because I kind of met and dealt with Ed through our previous employer. And, you know, yes, here we are today, you know, been connected, yes, and kind of growing. So it's been good.
And everybody speaks highly of you. So congratulations. This is a keynote presentation, everybody. So Robert, when you're ready, you can take it away.
Absolutely. So one of the things that, you know, we're real big on and everything that you and I have talked about, Ted, has been the employee growth aspect and kind of taking into play a little bit of how we do that at CMA. So I figured I'd kind of share with everybody just a little bit of what we do, and hopefully it sparks some interest and changes some dealer groups or maybe just even some personal development within departments itself. So, you know, about us, a company was brought together back in 1924 as Petersburg Motor Company. You know, through that time, they kind of went through a lot of stuff through World War II, and you know, there's a lot of history within our website. So anybody that's a history buff and wants to read into it, they've published a lot of what's in there. But ultimately, you know, the companies stood together, stood by, and kind of pushed through and persevered through everything. And lo and behold, here we are. You know, we're just about 100 years old, and you know, still kicking and thriving and growing as we keep going into the new years as they keep unfolding here. You know, our mission here is to move the lives of associates, customers, and communities forward. And, you know, we take that serious through every aspect of what we do. I know a big conversation we always have, or everybody hears, is that we're an ESOP company, that being employee stock option. So allowing the employees and all aspects are all considered partial owners within the company, provided stock options and, you know, taking the credit for what's due across the board here. So no title really kind of makes it any better than anyone else here. Everybody's an owner at the end of the day, and we all do what's right for our customers and taking care of them. So one of the things that we focus on, obviously, we have philanthropy committees that do outsourcing and whatnot with the community. We have the associates themselves who do training to better grow themselves personally and professionally. And then obviously all that transpires down into our customers. Our promise for that, obviously, is owners just care more. Caring implies that we do more. We believe care is a verb, and care requires action. So it takes all of us to be part of that movement and making sure that we're doing that, which I'll get into a little bit here on how we kind of get into the training and what we bring. So for that aspect of what we're talking about with employee growth, as a company of owners, we care more for each other, care more for our customers, and care more for our communities. By doing so, you know, we're setting the staple for what we need to be in the automotive industry and kind of changing that stigma of the dealers having the bad taste in everybody's mouth, and you need to go to the independent. So we definitely push hard to make everything from service, parts, sales, a completely different experience when you come through. From the dealership level, we do a number of different aspects of trainings across the board. We have monthly training situations, which includes all 1,100 plus associates from all of our markets. That is done through Zoom. Everybody is encouraged to join that, which is great. We have some integral trainers that come in here, some big names that people have heard before. Glenn Lundy is one. Danielle Delgado is the other. They are our superstar team that come together. And the focus of it is primarily on individual growth, which is the big key thing here. We try to make sure that everybody is growing personally and professionally. So it's not just a matter of numbers here for us. We don't just look at the numbers getting put on the board. We don't just look at how people are interacting while they're at work. We try to make sure that their lives are better and they're operating as the best versions of themselves while they're here.
Robert, if I can come back to the training for a moment and back to the social media, because I do notice that when you post on social media, you do mention and do show some of the visuals from that training. I think you said monthly. How often does that training take place? I mean, is it ever missed, or can you count on that's going to happen on a certain day? I think I've seen the term CMA Day online.
We do. CMA Day is the hashtag we post. We try to invade the internet and break the internet every Wednesday. So the first Wednesday of every month is the live. We have a employee dashboard and employee app that is then uploaded, and all the videos from all the previous recordings for the employees when they log in are available to them. So they can actually go in, and if they missed a day themselves, they can go ahead and go in and get it. But it is every first Wednesday of the month for the entire auto group across the board. All, like I said, all associates are welcome. Nobody is declined from being able to come to it. So it's very cool.
That's managers and everybody.
Managers, detailers, technicians, parts advisors, the executive manager, owners. Liza's there. It's definitely down to everybody. And Liza usually opens up those meetings for us and kind of goes over a little bit of the previous month's, wins and losses and kind of what we're doing to move forward within the next month and making sure we're all on the same goals and whatnot. So
that's really important. And you're hearing from the top every time. And then again, like you said, everybody is an owner. So
exactly. So that is done, like I said, the first Wednesday of every month. The second Wednesday, that is for our leadership team. So that's anybody in a leadership role or a manager of a department or an executive manager, general manager, sales manager, parts manager. All leadership positions are then done the second Wednesday. The focus there is a little more on the leadership side of things, more so than just the overall growth, but again, still focused on the personal and professional growth across the board, making sure, again, that we're trying to build the best versions of ourselves and put it together. An all-star team is kind of the main group there. So led the same way. Liza usually speaks first, and then we have Glenn and Danelle kind of come through and do their training from that. And then the third Wednesday, they have the general manager, executive manager, and CFOs and stuff like that are all on the top one. That is a little more focused on the upper hand leadership and what they're doing across the board to grow those underneath them and help them as well. So same concept, 3 different trainings, 3 different groups of people, but at the same time, it's all focused on the same goal, which is pushing everybody here to make sure we're kind of growing and doing the best we can, which has been phenomenal. It's been awesome. It's kind of part of the reason I'm down here. When we look at social media, my social media cues, when we made a decision to make a move and come down here, obviously the dealer group and the people that I want to associate myself with was trying to align with what my personal aspects of how I look at things were as well. So, finding an auto group within the area that we were looking, and CMA just kind of happened to fit the bill for everything when I was looking on that move and where we were going to end up. So it worked out pretty well. Again, kind of taking the social media aspect, we were connected through some Facebook groups, and I was tied in and, known Scott and Liza and a number of the employees that kind of work down here through social media. So when it came to it and, the position to kind of make that move down here and whatnot came together, it was pretty smooth. Took a little bit of time. The interview aspect of things, watching my family get interviewed, we had to take them down here and watch my wife and kids get interviewed to make sure that when we came down, we had full support. Everybody was on board and everybody knew what we were doing, and we were kind of all going the same focus and whatnot. So pretty cool stuff.
Come back to that. That's fascinating. Who interviewed your family?
So at that time, when we met here, that would have been Scott Simons, who's our president and executive manager of the 5 dealerships here in Staunton, Virginia. He met with us, and the general manager of the Chrysler Dodge Jeep store met with us. Okay. So we spent probably about 3 or 4 hours here at the store, kind of meeting and greeting everybody. Probably about a half hour, 45 minutes with the 2 of them, and then about an hour or so with our general manager here. Again, just kind of looking over everything and really honing in on the fact that we're going to have, a family life change that's going on. We need to make sure everybody's on board and everybody's there for it. So
I imagine part of that is setting expectations for everybody, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was a big part of that, what was expected of me when I came down, and also what the expectations were with the transition and how that was going to look with getting the family down here and time off and things needed. In our industry, we work weekends. So when they were open to allow me to have weekends off until I got the family moved down here. So I worked remotely on the weekends, and I was able to be here Monday through Friday physically. And then on Saturdays I was remote and able to travel home and see the family until we got everything situated and got them down here. It was pretty cool.
Can I come back to this for just a moment?
Sure.
When you are in a dealer group that's growing at the rate that Carter Myers Automotive is, it's tough to keep up with the pace of what's happening. And you may hear things are happening at other stores, this and that. Is having these regular trainings, with the leaders, starting with Liza, and you mentioned Scott, yourself, all the way down, is that important to have for associates, who work in your group, to hear it right from the top?
I think it is for me personally, having the same mindset going from the top down. When you look at any company or any business in that hand, when you have the focus from the top being the same focus all the way down through the leadership into your department managers, into the staff in those departments and whatnot, I think that wholeheartely kind of goes to the overall aspect of the growth and why the company is kind of doing what it's doing. A lot of the growth we've had has come from the reputation of the auto group, as well as the relationships that have been built over the years and the fact of who the company is. So, when some of these acquisitions are done and whatnot, a lot of these companies are seeing us and wanting us involved with that aspect. So that way their employees that they're in turn handing over to us are taken care of properly. And it's not just a group of people that are looked at, but, a bunch of families and individuals that are going to bring something to the table. So it's definitely a huge part in kind of how we focus everything.
Thank you for sharing all this. This is great.
Yeah. So I'll jump back into this. So some of the other training that we actually do, we actually developed our own in-house sales and service training. So our sales staff and our service advisors, we developed our own training from our corporate level aspect of it, where we send out our own trainer to each market, and they go through and do some sales kind of recognition on how to use the apps that we use and the different resources that we have for the sales department. And then the service advisor one, we actually do kind of, best case kind of call it Service Advisor 101. What are you doing? Our brand value as well as the manufacturer values, and how we as a company can kind of integrate into being one with how we're doing everything, and everybody's getting the same experience, not just at my store, but all the 23 stores that we have. So it's been a huge focus on that. Obviously, F&I development through our third-party vendors and our partners, I should say, our third-party partners coming through and making sure that we have the best information and the training kind of enhanced. That way everybody is all growing consistently. Again, it's always that ongoing aspect where we're continuously growing. On the flip side to that, we have our CMA Valley dealership specifically. So taking over to that one, Scott's kind of gone through and done what's kind of like a small group mentorship. It's a 12-week program that we run. Scott is led by it with his assistant, and it's by application. So you have to actually email a reason why you feel you deserve to be part of that group, what you're looking to get out of it. We focus on 3 personal and 3 professional goals that we can hold each other accountable on. And then the group gets together weekly on their lunch break. So it's their own personal time given up, as well as Scott and Laura's time that's given up to them. And they go through all kinds of different aspects. So I went through the program myself when I got down here as well. I think we're on our 6th or 7th group now that we're going through. And again, we'll focus on personal health, overall wellness, financial literacy, just kind of a slew of different things to make sure that we're all kind of understanding life in a whole, and those things that maybe you didn't get told when you were a kid that you needed somebody to tell you and just never knew. And it's very basic. Nothing of it is kind of crazy or over the top. It's just a time for us to all kind of come together. And then that group then kind of coordinates and works hand in hand in holding each other accountable for it. So part of my recognition, what you said there, when I joined the group, had a kind of different scale where we were. And this is a group of individuals that range from your recon department, office staff, managers, obviously our executive manager and president, Scott here, and all titles are checked at the door. So when you come in, it's just a group of people. It's not a group of you work in this department, you work in this department. Here's how business is going to work. I love it. It's purely personal in that aspect of it, and kept to keep you in line in the fact that it's an open forum for us. So part of that program, I put forth some goals in there that I personally had. And one of the goals I had was to kind of get myself back in shape and lose some weight and get myself healthy again. As a number of people know, this industry.
You look great, by the way. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
How much weight have you lost?
So I am down 48 pounds right now.
Wow.
From where I started. And a lot of that was over the course of 90 days. We put forth a goal, and I was asked when I was going to accomplish my specific goal of weight loss. And I told them I would kind of have it done in 12 months. And they turned around and said, no, you got 6 months to get it done. So I kind of took that as a challenge on myself and pushed myself and found myself 90 days in reaching the original goal that we kind of set for ourselves. Wow. And then we kept going. So, now I post, I'll be in the upper launch at 200-300 days now and kind of keeping it going.
And Robert, you use the social media, I noticed.
Yep.
You're getting leverage on yourself because you're putting yourself out there.
Sure.
I've seen you. This is day number 248. Okay. You're letting us know, okay, you're on this challenge. We can see it visually on you, but you've also got leverage that you got all these people now expecting and holding you accountable too. So
I do. And that's the last part of everything in this aspect. At the end of all the trainings, the corporate training, and our small group training here, the last aspect of it was accountability. So all that tied back into the social media. Okay. When we look at where I was in social media before and where I am now, I kind of took advantage of that and kind of rolled with it. Looking at just my Facebook growth in that aspect, I was maybe 150, 200 connections on Facebook. I'm well over 4,700 connections on Facebook now. And I've also switched it from an aspect of just outsourcing growth and looking at also making sure I'm taking advantage of the local area and marketing myself locally as well. So making sure a lot of my connections for what we do service wise, I have to be attainable. So people have to be able to get to me. So connecting with different customers, different groups and different networks and businesses within the area to make sure I'm getting a grasp on who's in my market as well. Not just from a sales side where you can utilize sales across kind of the country. We post about that, and we post that we ship nationally, and we can sell you a car and get you a car and do all that is excellent. But from the fixed op side of things, I got to be able to address my market directly here. So we still utilize the growth in the aspect that we can sell parts and accessories nationally, but at the same time, if you're a local customer or looking for service or just automotive advice in general, we're here to help. And that's a big part of kind of what I'm trying to put out there is change that stigma of who we are and that we're here to help. We're here to be assistant. And it doesn't matter if we gain or get anything out of it. At the end of the day, we're here to take care of people and take care of our customers. So any aspect of how we can help, that's what we're here for.
Great.
So That being said, that is a lot of what the employee growth aspect is. I think it's a good feature and function for any automotive group to kind of look at. And again, whether you take it from a small aspect of your department, the people around you and under you, or just an accountability aspect, just kind of growing a group of accountability. You don't need to post it socially. It's kind of worked for me, and it's what I've used to hold me accountable. So that way everybody that's been involved with it knows kind of where I'm at. But it's definitely a big step forward, and it has to start at the top at the end of the day. We could talk about it all we want, and we can try to implement as many things as we want in any auto group, in any position, and anywhere we are. At the end of the day, if we don't have it from the top down, which we do here, it makes it very difficult to make a lot of those changes for the professional side. You can help on the personal aspects and try to help people grow there, but professionally, if you don't have the support all the way around you, it's going to be difficult to grow. So,
wow, what a great story, and a true story.
Thank you, sir.
Robert, no better way to open our event than having you, tell us your story and the Carter Meyer story, and very grateful, to you, for doing that. Looking back now, when did you first start at Carter Myers? What was the date? Do you remember?
I do. Actually, because of that, paying attention when I started January 10th of 2022. So I've been here just a little over a year myself now. About 300, a little over 300 miles away from where I kind of resided and grew up. And, it's my wife and the kids down here. We don't have a large support system. So the fact that the auto group itself became our stability and our ultimate, our extended family down here has been very grateful in how it's gone together. So
I have one last question. What's next for you, Robert? What's next on your agenda?
I'm going to keep growing, man. I want to see my social media keep going. Obviously, we have our personal professional goals here, which were stated from day one with them and what I'm looking to do here. And, whether that's taking on a bigger role within the auto group, taking on a growth role into a general manager position, or whatever that ends up being down the road, we'll keep kind of pushing and seeing it here. But ultimately for me, I'm not going to stop. I never have. I've always kind of, kept going to keep kind of pushing myself to be the next best version. So we're going to see where it goes. It's going to be
Robert,
fun.
Congratulations to you. Congratulations to your family. And of course to Carter Myers, and very grateful for all you do for fixed operations.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks for having me.
All right. Our keynote today, everybody, Robert Miggs from Carter Myers Automotive, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
These are the best moments, when stress fades away and life can be enjoyed to its fullest. And helping people connect to these moments, that's what you do. Every day. Helping them find the car that's just right for them, with an easy flow from website to showroom to financing. Ensuring that their car runs safely. By sending reminders to show you're thinking of them and scheduling service that fits their busy lives. You're even helping keep their personal data protected. So times like these are worry-free. And we're here, behind you, every step of the way, through relationships built on years of listening and understanding. We bring the needed strength, knowledge, and experience to give you, our customers and partners, real peace of mind. Through our technology, we unify dealers, manufacturers, and software developers, sharing expertise and boosting collaboration for everyone's benefit. And by envisioning a future of innovative solutions, open platforms, and shared outcomes, we can shape our industry for years to come with the experiences consumers want. We don't take this unique opportunity for granted. The chance to do something truly special, to work at the heart of this industry, connecting it at every level, and taking it to new heights. We make the connections that move you. So together, we can create more moments like these.
Build trust and consumer confidence by becoming a Fixed Ops Roundtable certified dealer. Join the brand that's leading the way in automotive retail fixed operations. For more information on this limited time opportunity, visit fixedopsroundtablecertified.com. We may be back in the 80s, but we know that the future is female. Join me as I interview Sarah Vantine from Quantum 5. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, back to the 80s event. We are here with Sarah Vantine, Vice President of Sales at Quantum 5. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me, Kara. It's so great to be here.
I'm so excited to learn a little bit more about Miss Sarah today. And I have to start out with, because you've been such a positive influence in the automotive industry since I've been in this wonderful industry. My first question to you is, what is your outlook on being a woman in automotive?
You know, I am so excited about the future of women in this industry. I have seen so much in the last 14 years that has really, you know, there's been opportunities across the board. I think in any dealership and any OEM, any facet of the industry for improvement. But what I've seen collectively, and I travel all over the country and I'm going to a variety of different dealerships. And of course at NADA and some of these conferences that we go to, the appetite that I've seen to embrace humanity as a whole, women, men, everybody, it has just that whole pivot in our industry with everything has really been so positive. And I'm more excited to see so many different types of jobs that women are asking for and getting in the industry. And so seeing people get promoted into opportunities like general manager, getting opportunities to even go beyond that in the vendor partner side and in the dealership, I'm just super excited about all of the different opportunities that women have today.
It's very different than it used to be. And something that you just mentioned was asking for that opportunity. And I think that's something that kind of slips our mind at certain points during our career. But you're 100% right. As long as we are aware of those opportunities and simply ask for them, I think the world is ours in automotive as women. I've also heard you say before, Sarah, something along the lines of people first. Now, what are you exactly talking about when you say people first in this industry?
So this is something that I've been really passionate about for really the breadth of my career. And it's been something that when I joined Quantum 5, being able to craft different components of the culture in this company, and David O'Brien allowing me that space and giving me all these different opportunities to really hone in the message of what we wanted to deliver to our clients and to the customers of those clients. And so for me, people first, it really resonates with me in being about the employees in your organization. If your employees are taken care of, if they feel empowered, what that leads to is your customer feeling confident and your customer being empowered. And so people first really is the mindset that people are what make or break your business. They make and break our communities. Without people, we really don't have the opportunities to exist in our communities, opportunities to thrive, opportunities for our families to grow. And all of those pieces are so important to the whole entire human experience. I mean, we all have different people that are important to us in our families. We all have a variety of different types of families. We're all at different points in our lives. And we're experiencing all of these things in our jobs too. And so being present and having a culture where you can really allow people in your company to explore a variety of facets of who they are as an individual and give them that personal development where they can grow into the leaders in your organization, where they can have a vested stake in your business. That's what really makes the difference for our customers. And we have so much amazing data around that employee retention component and the customer retention component. So people first, it's a good business strategy.
Definitely. And I know firsthand, if you have a happy employee, you're going to have happy customers, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's so critical. And I think it's something that we've maybe in the last few years, we've had some moments where it kind of got out of our grasp for a little bit. You know, there were things that happened in every business that shifted a little bit with the pandemic, but we're, 3 years past that at this point. And the real thing that we're seeing across the industry is more and more consumers being aware of the people experience that they get with a product or service. And it's more important that your customers get that experience from people that want to be there, that are empowered in your company.
Absolutely. And talking about that culture in these organizations, being there at Quantum 5, what do you think is the largest demand or skill set in which dealership personnel are wanting or needing?
This is what's been so exciting for me in this company right now, because we have a lot of exciting things going on and a lot of great news that we'll be sharing very soon. But the thing that is so what people are hungering for across dealerships and across organizations is feeling like they know where to go in their journey. And that can be across the board in leadership, that can be in sales, that can be in service, that can be in BDC. There's so many different pathways that someone can choose or explore. And I think that's what has been absent for so long in a lot of dealership organizations and culture, is that, and I remember this from when I first got in the car business, but when I first was selling cars, I came in and my view of what was available and possible for me in my career was really, really narrow. I knew, okay, I might be able to be a finance manager one day, or I might be a sales manager one day. Maybe I'll get to a GM seat somewhere down the road, but that's really only 3 opportunities to explore. And the reality is there's so many different types of jobs, so many different facets of our industry on the vendor partner side, the OEM side, and across the board, there's so many different other options that you can choose in an organization. And that was something that was so interesting to me, was because I didn't know when I first got in the business that a BDC even existed. I didn't know what it was. I didn't have any concept of it. And yet that entire development, where suddenly the door opened and it was like, wait a minute, I have an opportunity to do what? Business development. I've never heard of that. What is that? That wound up being the point of my career that really just took off. And it's something that I think today, and something that we do with Quantum 5, is we really help dealerships find a way to bring out the best in their people, and also bring out that mentality of, how do I move to the next step? What is the next step? It's not linear. It could be something that maybe they get some leadership exposure, but they choose to go a different route. All it is at the end of the day is really about the people in your company and empowering them. And that is really and truly what people are learning or yearning for today in dealerships, is that whole piece. They just want to have a pathway that they can be successful and know what options they have and where they can go, and someone that's going to continue to support them along whatever journey it is that they want.
Touching on that, do you think that there's any way for, you and I being women in automotive, maybe other people watching today, how can we do a better job of kind of spotlighting those different opportunities that are not always seen in the automotive industry?
Yeah, that's something that I've been really passionate about in dealerships, and also in my role in Quantum 5 is, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but when you give people the opportunity to explore a variety of facets of who they are, it really can change the course of their entire lives. And I think as a woman in automotive, one of the biggest things that I struggled with early in my career was not really knowing what the next step was in my career. So, the age-old question that you're always asked in an interview, where do you want to be in 5 years? Well, I can tell you right now, 5 years ago, I would never have thought that I would have been the VP of sales at Quantum 5. Like, that wasn't on my roadmap at all. But one thing that I've always been really passionate about is you never know when there's a learning opportunity and where a career opportunity might present itself. So throughout my entire career and my entire life, really, I've always treated people with the most respect, with always seeking that relationship to be somebody that can listen and learn from anybody that I encounter. And that's including you too. I've learned so much from you in our meetings and our encounters when we've got the chance to connect. And so I think that's the biggest piece for women in this industry is just be open to those opportunities for discussion. Seek out people to learn from. And you might be surprised where you can pick up things and where you can learn things. And then a conversation that might open the door to a whole new opportunity that you weren't ever expecting.
Absolutely. There's definitely a lot of twists and turns in this industry, but I think with great mentorship, leads to great success. And you're absolutely right with all of the networking, especially even through the roundtable that we've done, is really exposed all of these opportunities for a variety of different things in the automotive industry.
Yeah, and that networking piece is so valuable. And that's something that with the Fixed Ops Roundtable, this has really been so cool to have such a wonderful community. And that's something too, with our training platform and with how we approach dealerships, that community mentality of going in, and it's not just, all right, well, we're going to do sales training, but sales training by itself doesn't fix an organization. You have to look at the entire broader culture. You have to look at all of the inner working departments, how their relationships are, what that customer experience translates to once they buy a car and go into the service department. And it's all about community. So networking community and dealership community.
Absolutely. Now, pivoting a little bit, I see a lot of stuff on social media from you about your family, your personal life. I see you on a horse occasionally. So I have to ask you, as a young female, and I'm sure many other people watching us right now are wondering, how do you balance being such a successful businesswoman and a successful mother and wife at home?
That is a great question. I think it honestly, you have to give yourself some grace. I think there's so many different pieces that, and especially women, and I'm going to speak into that. I know how many women out there sometimes feel pressured about different things because you pull up your phone and you look at your social media and you see a very curated look into Facebook or a very curated view into Instagram, or even LinkedIn. And sometimes the reality is, you might have a day where, like 2 days ago, I had to go take my kids to school in the carpool line, and my daughter dumped a bag of Cheetos all over the entire back of my car. Well, of course, when she gets out of my vehicle, the first thing that she does is steps right on the Cheeto puff, and it's like everywhere in my carpet. Well, there were other things. As soon as I got back home, my son is 2.5 and he's going through potty training. I don't really need to elaborate any further on that, but there's pieces like that, when you're in a rush and you're trying to get to a meeting or to work and life happens, I think sometimes you just have to realize, like, we're all human. And the thing is with how I view my professional career and how I balance my family life, there really is no balance. The reality is sometimes I am so focused and into my family and work doesn't even cross my mind. And then other times I'm like, all right, today I have to be laser focused, and it's okay. I'm fortunate with my husband, who's also in the auto industry. He is very, very supportive. And as a family, we really lean on each other to take care of our family and take care of each other. And so I think for women, if you have a network of even if it's not necessarily your family, if you have other women or friends, leverage some of those connections. I mean, everybody has off days. Sometimes you might need to have a conversation with somebody and just vent and be like, look at my carpet. I just had my car cleaned and now it's a giant Cheeto sand environment for my kids. But yeah, I mean, as a woman in automotive too, I think it's just important to give yourself some space to just be human and realize that everyone is doing the best that they can. Some days you're going to be on top of it and have everything together and it'll go your way. Other days it might not, but when it doesn't, just breathe. You'll get through it and keep going.
And I would imagine that Quantum 5, the company that you're with, has to have a great culture to support women like you that have a family. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, and I've been so fortunate to be part of this amazing organization, and David O'Brien and Ken Herforth, our two co-founders, have been absolutely supportive of me, and personally and professionally. And I'll have to give an example of that was fairly recent. So you touched on horseback riding. Well, I've been in equestrian for several years. I got back into it about 5 years ago after a long hiatus, and really fell in love again with the sport. And in August, purchased a off the track thoroughbred that we've named Bo, and he is an incredible horse. But I was in a riding accident several months ago where I fell off Bo going at a gallop. So I was going about 40 miles an hour when I fell off. And of course, the result of that was I had a really bad concussion. And so I had just in passing mentioned to my company, hey, I'm a little off. Like, I'm not feeling that well, today. I fell off the horse last night, but I'm totally ready to, tackle a couple things that we got to have going on today and be in some of these meetings. My bosses were both like, no, like, you need to take care of you, take care of your family. You need to rest, and we've got this. And it was so incredible too. I mean, they not only took care of me, they took care of my family. So when I was not expecting this at all, they reached out and they were like, hey, we have dinner coming to your house tonight to take care of that. So you don't have that off of your plate, and you don't have to worry about cooking dinner or ordering something. We've got it taken care of on our end. And I thought, it's been so, that's just one specific example. I think everybody has those moments in their life where, either their spouse is sick, maybe they're sick, something's going on that's personal, and we all have those challenges. But having a culture that in a company that really understands, wow, you are both a human being and a professional, and we have to take care of both sides of you. We have to take care of you as a mom and as person with your own interests, and we also have to treat you as a professional. And so I've just been so blessed with this company that has really supported me across the board.
That's wonderful. And I have to say, great leaders grow great leaders. So I know that they are grateful to have you there, and you guys have blessed the automotive industry. And I love to see a company that has such amazing culture and cares for their employees like Quantum 5 does.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Sarah. On behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable and the entire automotive industry, thank you, Sarah Vantine from Quantum 5. Walk this way to get the fresh take of the state of the automotive retail industry with Leonard Bellavia from Bellavia Blatt PC.
Welcome back to the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is time for the state of the automotive retail industry. We'd like to welcome back Leonard Bellavia, who is the senior partner at Bellavia Blatt PC, dealerlaw.com, a great friend of the dealer and the retail community. Len, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, great to be with you as always. Thank you for having me.
Len, you are certainly well known in the industry, and when you speak here at the Roundtable, it gets a lot of attention. And what I'd like to do today, if it's okay, I would like to discuss some of the state franchise laws that are being proposed in different states that pertain both to sales and fixed ops. And I've seen you quoted all over, including in Automotive News, several articles where you've been interviewed. And if you would kind of take us through the lay of the land in regards to that.
Sure. I guess, this comes under the general moniker of we're at a crossroads in the industry. Dealers really have to push back and decide what's important to them, what fight they can leave for another day. But I guess the general statement is if dealers do nothing, there's going to be a major revolution in terms of the integrity of the franchise system. So dealers have been mobilized. They've been communicating with their state dealer association officials and 20 groups and so forth. And the state associations have been extraordinarily active in trying to amend the state franchise laws. Keep in mind, every state has a dealer franchise law. They vary in degrees of strength and content. And I think the associations are trying to get together and pick and choose the best dealer protections from each state and make sure that they have a comprehensive tapestry of franchise protections for their dealers. So some states are a little bit further ahead, some are catching up, but I think on the whole, what's on the legislative agenda across the country is really very good for dealers. I think what's happening is dealers are realizing that unless they are proactive, manufacturers are going to take whatever stabs they can to try and cut through these protections. And Ted, keep in mind that manufacturers, like anybody else, will always measure what the other side is doing to figure out what they can get away with and what they can't. So historically, manufacturers have tested. That's why when you see something happening in the industry, if you're Volvo did a few things a few years ago about direct sales, and Ford is doing now with EV sales. It's not just for Volvo dealers to pay attention, or Ford dealers in that case to pay attention, because every manufacturer is observing the pushback, the degree to which dealers will fight if pushed. And if they see that dealers are complacent, we can rest assured those programs will certainly crop up with other OEMs. So state association leaders are aware of this, and they are pretty aggressive at trying to install these bills, implement legislation that will give dealers nationwide protection, as though this is a national act as opposed to 50 different state statutes. So just to give you an example, speaking of Volvo and Ford, direct sales, that terminology is now 3 or 4 or 5 years old. And the important thing is that dealers don't become so complacent because they've heard, it's not old news. It's very cutting edge. And dealers have to be careful, make sure that their state statutes provide prohibitions against direct sales with respect to a manufacturer, what we call a legacy manufacturer, the Chrysler, Ford, Toyotas that have an existing framework of dealers. They can't change the rules in the middle of the game and say, well, we're going to direct sale on these models and keep the current models in place going forward. So New York has this already. Many states have prohibitions against direct sales, but those states that don't are now introducing legislation that will provide that protection. We've talked in the past, Ted, about over-the-air updates. That's really on the agenda of many state dealer associations to say to manufacturers, in simplest terms, if you build a car with hardware that enables customers to activate that hardware, you have to do it at the point of sale. You can't, death by 1,000 cuts, sell the vehicle with equipment that a customer is paying for, and then ask the customer to pay extra to implement the functionality of that particular software. So state associations are saying that, you have to either provide that at the beginning when the customer buys the car, or if you do it after the fact, then have the dealer participate in the profitability of that. Because what they're doing is they're emasculating the dealer's markup by providing the vehicle with that capability, but keeping all of the profit later by charging the customer as though that customer were if that buyer was the customer of the manufacturer, which is a fiction. So state associations have been proactive there. A subject near and dear to us, Ted, is warranty reimbursement at retail. Yeah. That's an age-old concept now. It started in the 80s, and more states, all 50 states now have one form of legislation or other that entitles dealers to get retail for parts and labor. But that's changing. It's getting very complicated, which is, as you know, why we say, attorneys should be providing this assistance to dealers. And most recently, there have been challenges by the automotive manufacturers. They have lost, pretty much it is a mainstay now that dealers are entitled to get retail if they apply for it. But now state association leaders have become savvy to the end runs that manufacturers are trying to do to take some of the teeth out of those statutes. So they're kind of emboldening those statutes by saying that retail means retail, and you can't reduce the margins at the manufacturer level to try and defeat that. So there are things like making sure that labor rates are, even if manufacturers reduce the retail time allowed for a certain task, the statutes are saying, it has to be 1.5 times to guard against that type of chipping away at the intent of the statute. Rights of first refusal. This doesn't directly relate to fixed ops, but indirectly it does, because if the sellers can't control who they sell to, it affects everyone, including, the service department. So rights of first refusal are, to simplify it, means that if a seller wants to sell to someone he trusts down the street, the manufacturer should not be able to come in the middle of a buy-sell and say, no, we don't want that dealer. We want to bring in somebody from out of town who may have their own, employees and different way of doing business that is not really in the seller's best interest, because sellers sometimes want to keep the real estate and they want to know that their tenant is someone they know and trust, and not have somebody foisted upon them from far away. And then, you have the general day-to-day, attempts by the manufacturers to change the terms of the franchise agreement. So more and more states now are saying, look, if you implement what they call a program, manufacturers seem to want to make it seem innocuous. This is just a policy change. No, if it goes to the heart of the relationship, then that's considered a modification of the franchise agreement. And now statutes more and more are saying you can't do that. And if you seek to do that, dealers can go into the departments of motor vehicles and get what's called a stay, to put a hold on that until it can be challenged and evaluated. And the burden's on the manufacturer to say that this doesn't materially change the relationship. So, then of course you have the Scouts and Genesis and these new products that are coming forward, under the guise of a different entity. So when Hyundai says, well, this is not a Hyundai, it's a Genesis, and that's a good example, Ted. Dealers weren't happy about it. Not many, or if any, fought back. And that's an example. I think if that would have happened today, dealers, I think, are a little bit more aware based on what's going on with EVs and Ford and all of the shots that manufacturers are taking at dealers. I would venture to guess that dealers would probably would stand up if this was just coming on the forefront today and say, wait, can manufacturers do this? Can they introduce a model under a different name and claim it's not part of the existing franchise? So that's something I think dealers are going to be much more suspect about, and state associations will assist. And if I could just make a general observation over, 36 years of doing this, I can't tell you how many dealers have come in, and I'm sure other attorneys that do what I do will attest to this. Out of 100 dealers that come in and say, this is what's happening at by my manufacturer, attorneys will say, well, it violates the franchise law. You have a legal right to put a stop to it. 99 out of 100 will not do anything.
Right.
For the understandable reason that, this is your source of income and revenue. So the idea of suing the manufacturer doesn't really appeal to dealers. So manufacturers have gotten away with murder. And I often say, sure, this is inappropriate and illegal. What do you want to do about it? Well, nothing. Let me leave it to my 20 group. Let me leave it to National Dealer Council or my state association. But the problem is they can't do anything about it either because they don't have legal standing. That's a term of art in the legal circles. It means that if you have to be the one that's aggrieved, you can't have an alter ego or a representative sue on your behalf. And that has really stymied dealers' abilities and willingness to take some of these programs to court to challenge them. So what's happening now, and I'm really thrilled to see this because I've been on the soapbox for years trying to get associations, state dealer associations, to have legal standing on behalf of dealers, because what that does, it installs this degree of anonymity into the process. So if 44 dealers in a particular state are calling their association saying you have to do something about it, instead of saying we can't, we don't have standing, now state associations, if these type of legislative initiatives succeed, will be able to say, don't worry, we will fight this fight for you. So no one dealer has to feel that they're standing out in the field as a renegade dealer and have to worry about the repercussions or retaliation. So my hat's off to Florida. Ted Smith in Florida has taken the bull by the horns and introduced legislation that addresses that specifically. Other states like New Jersey and California have standing provisions in their franchise laws already. My goal, this is probably in the top of my wish list, is that every single state do the same thing and get standing, associational standing, legislated into law so that these fights can be waged by associations. It's easy to get them funded through your members. The problem is, it's one thing to have all these great laws on the book, but what good is it if dealers don't invoke those rights? So this bypasses that whole problem. So I think that if states are successful in getting that passed and enacted into law, you're going to see the franchise system and the integrity of it really be preserved for future generations. This has been an Achilles heel in the life of the franchise dealer, because it's one thing to tell them they have an airtight case, but to get them to cross the line to actually file a lawsuit, it's a 1 in a million shot. So these type of initiatives, I think, go to the heart of the franchise system, and kudos to those state dealer associations that are really being progressive about getting these standing statutes on the books. So
I didn't realize that was such an issue and that was even available. Can I go back to something you mentioned just a little bit earlier? The over-the-air updates, Len, we're hearing a lot more about that here in the fixed ops community. You pointed out very astutely in the last year that the revenue, which is in the billions, in the tens of billions of dollars every year, that it's going to come from those over-the-air updates is going to come directly out of the fixed op, the retail, the dealer fixed operations departments. Talk to us a little bit about that, because the time to act on that is now, and the awareness is starting to increase, but we're hearing a lot of chatter about over-the-air updates.
Yeah, I often get asked, what is at the top of the priority list for dealers? And aside from the standing issue, which I'm happy to see some progress is being made, is these over-the-air updates. Rather, unabashedly, the manufacturers are disclosing that this is a $25 billion per year revenue source for them. And that means that instead of dealers collecting this revenue, manufacturers are taking it out of the pockets of fixed ops departments. And, it's like a slow process. And I don't think dealer principals are aware of the threat of these over-the-air updates. And it's unfair to the consumer. I always get a kick out of, anytime there's an issue about, changing something in the franchise model, the manufacturer seeks refuge in this safe harbor declaration that, well, we're doing this because it enhances the customer experience. So that's really a crock, because if direct sales, for example, enhance the customer experience, I mean, that's an easy one to rebut, right? If a customer has to be told, take it or leave it, this is the price, that doesn't enhance the customer experience. If the manufacturer says, well, yes, you do have, a heated steering wheel or vibrating seats in your vehicle, and you paid for that, but you can't utilize it until you pay an extra subscription fee after the fact. Well, that's not in the customer interest to charge them twice for the same service or product in a vehicle. All of the things we've been talking about, really, we could spend a lot of time explaining why these are not good for consumers. But that's the fallback argument that manufacturers make, and dealers are the best advocates for the consumers. And unfortunately, consumers don't have an appreciation for the value of the dealer franchise system as it relates to their own sales experience and service experience. So it's up to both the dealer and the state legislature and the representatives to explain to consumers that choice is important and competition is important. And most of these programs that manufacturers are seeking to foist upon dealers are not good for consumers. So it's an education process, and the existing franchise fabric is relevant to protecting consumers. Of course, there's always the argument, no, these are all protectionist statutes for dealers. These statutes were put out there to protect consumers as well, because consumers need continuous representation. The integrity of the franchise system is important to consumers, so that when they buy a car, they don't have to search for a dealer because their dealer was put out of business by a manufacturer based on some program of the month that they didn't want to subscribe to. So all of these things, are relevant to keeping consumers happy. So whenever you hear a manufacturer say, well, we're doing this to enhance the customer experience, red flags should go up, because that's really like a last-ditch attempt to justify an unpopular and unhealthy change to the franchise system.
And Len, one more thing I'd like to ask you about that you mentioned. Let's talk about retail warranty reimbursement, because there is probably nothing more pressing that will help the revenue of the dealer if they are aware of both the labor and the parts opportunities on that retail warranty reimbursement. Here we are midway through the second quarter. There's been a lot of changes in our industry, a lot of inflation as well in the last year or two. We've heard about in the news. Retail warranty reimbursement, and the fact that it needs to be top of mind for dealers to be looking at what they can do within their states and to deal with a professional in terms of making sure that they get all that they are entitled to and file that correctly in the appropriate manner.
Yeah, that's been a pet project of mine since the 90s. I started lawsuits against the manufacturers because the laws on the books were very vague and obtuse back then. They simply said dealers must be paid reasonable rates and markups for warranty work, but there was no definition. So we started that process. That's why on our website we call ourselves the pioneers of warranty. I know you're going to be speaking to Ken Lohr of my office. I consider him the subject matter expert on retail warranty reimbursement. Just to talk about something topical, you see all of the buy sells that are occurring over the past 3 years. I mean, record numbers of dealerships are changing hands. The buyers unwittingly are continuing business as usual in the service department, not realizing that the manufacturers on a buy sell kicked the warranty reimbursement rate back down to the national rate. So it might be cost plus 40% on parts, when the seller at the time of the closing was getting cost plus 85%. Ooh. So buyers don't realize that they have to apply new. Not every manufacturer does that, but most do. When these submissions go in, they're reviewed by factory reps, who then have them reviewed by attorneys at the manufacturer. So that's why, and these are governed, they're all governed by state statutes. This is a statutory submission. So when I see, vendors out there who are not lawyers, I liken that to you and I filing our taxes by our neighbor who happens to be good at math but is not a CPA. If you're going to have your taxes filed, use a CPA. If you're going to seek warranty reimbursement under your state statute, use an attorney, because there's an attorney on the other side trying very hard to find holes in the submission. And Ken Lohr will tell you, his success rate is 100%. Nobody challenges Ken. So manufacturers are savvy to his capabilities. So that's why, this is something that, especially now when gross profits are getting reduced, back to pre-COVID levels. Suddenly our phone is ringing regularly because the focus now is shifting to the fixed ops department to say, all right, new car sales had their run. Now we're back to business as usual. So we're getting calls from fixed ops guys saying the dealer wants us to increase our revenue and on warranty, and the amount of money is very substantial. It could be $250,000 a year, and when you figure out the math, assuming a 5 times multiple and valuing your blue sky, that could be well over $1 million of blue sky value just sitting on the shelf there for the taking if a dealer knows how to do these submissions. And the biggest mistake, I'll say, and this is not a promotional statement, I'll just say it right out. If you're a fixed ops director or your parts manager is doing this, and they could be the brightest, and presumably they are, to fill those positions, that's not the person or people that should be doing these warranty submissions. A, they don't know the nuances of every manufacturer. They each have their own pain points. B, they could be doing something far more profitable, which is the day-to-day business of running a service department, and not be taken off for 40 to 50 hours, because that's what it takes to do one of these submissions.
Easy.
And if it takes them 2 to 3 months of time, because presumably there's still business on a daily basis, then those 2 to 3 months cost about $25,000 a month. So you're saving $75,000 by not outsourcing it. To what end? You're probably going to get a kickback, and your productivity at the dealership is not going to be as strong as it should be during those 3 months, because the service or parts director is taking their eye off the day-to-day activity. So it's very easy to make the case why these submissions should be outsourced. But as you know, Ted, I kind of get up on my soapbox when I talk about retail reimbursement, because it has been something my firm has focused on for almost 25 years now. So don't be, just the tip of the day is, be aware that at the time of a closing, it's time the next day to focus on how do I build up a set of repair orders. It will take 2 to 3 or 4 months to do that, so that these repair orders are ripe for resubmission.
I just learned that today. So all of our fixed ops friends, if you've been involved recently in a buy sell, our fixed ops directors who oversee multiple stores, and you're now bringing in a new store or two, something to be extremely aware of. Len Bellavia, everybody, is the senior partner at Bellavia Blatt PC, dealerlaw.com. Great friend of the dealer. Len, if our audience, if our dealers, general managers, fixed ops directors, service directors want to reach out to you and your firm on any of the topics that you discussed today, because you do so much for the dealer. And of course, we are going to have Ken coming up a little bit later in the show. Len, you've got a great website, dealerlaw.com. I think you've got the best one out there. Really easy to remember.
There are some advantages to getting a little older, I chose that back when there wasn't as much competition in this space. So I've had it for 30 years. It's there are different variations of it I've seen out there, but it helps our clients remember how to reach us. And to reach us, it's simply info@dealerlaw.com, and that comes right to my email.
All right, everybody. If you want to work with the best, Len Bellavia is here, a great friend of the dealer, great friend of the fixed ops community. Len, on behalf of the Roundtable, once again, thank you for bringing all of these issues top of mind that are affecting the profitability and can affect the profitability of our dealer body.
Well, thank you, Ted. I always enjoy watching your fixed ops roundtable. I think it's where every dealer and every manager should be focused in on this, because some of the ideas that come out of your sessions are absolutely necessary for everyone to understand. So you've got the cutting edge program, and I'm sure I know my clients appreciate it, and anybody in the industry who wants to become the best at what they do should really focus in on your project. And best of luck to you.
Len, thank you so much. We'll check in with you again a little bit later in the year. Thank you for all you do, Len. Len Bellavia, everybody, senior partner at Bellavia Blatt, dealerlaw.com, here today with the state of the automotive retail industry at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted.
What if you could make a phone call and collect $100,000 to $150,000 a year by obtaining retail rates on both warranty parts and labor. Sound too good to be true? We do all of the work for your dealership. We are the pioneers in retail reimbursement and regarded as the industry leader amongst dealers, accountants, and state dealer associations nationwide. And we don't share in your new profits. You keep it all. Your service managers and parts managers are busy. They have a job to do. Leave it up to the experts. We offer a turnkey solution. Your manufacturer won't know you retained a law firm. Our firm has made thousands of submissions and has collected hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients in over 45 states. Because of our unmatched experience, our results yield the highest possible increases. We offer a low flat fee, never a contingency fee. Our fees are much lower than non-attorney consultants who take a percentage of your added profits. We are lawyers. This is legal work. Your state statute controls the outcome. The factories rely on their lawyers to respond. So let us level the playing field. Bottom line, thousands of dealers have selected Bellavia Blatt for their retail warranty submissions. With our low flat fee, expert reputation, and behind-the-scenes work model, we are your best choice.
If your dealership is leaking profits and you don't know why, you need more than data. You need Vision AST. Vision AST is a single solution analytics platform engineered to uncover critical information from your DMS. Using real-time data to drive profit from every department is what we do. And with Vision AST, just log in on any device and your KPIs are right at your fingertips. You can't manage what you can't measure. Take control of your dealership's profits with Vision AST.
Hey, there's no need to phone home. Welcome back to the 80s with the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Keep your inventory looking glitz and glam. Learn how to keep your parts inventory as fresh as your used car inventory with the PartsEdge panel.
Welcome back to the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Kaylee Felio from PartsEdge is with us with the A-list parts panel. And Kaylee, you have been doing a great job with these panels. So congratulations to you and all the success that PartsEdge is having.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I'm really excited for this panel today.
I love, Kaylee, the title that you put together because it really rings home with a lot of dealers. And I'm excited about treating your parts inventory like you treat your used car inventory. So, Kaylee, I'm going to step out of the way and I'll be back to see you towards the end. So the show is yours.
Thank you. Well, let's start with everyone just introducing themselves quickly. I'm sure a lot of people know already who you are, but let's start with Ed.
So I'm the COO of Bozard Ford Lincoln, Ed Roberts. Sorry. We are located down here in St. Augustine, Florida. So we're still enjoying what you guys are just now getting here in the middle of May. We're enjoying all the sunshine and look forward to today's panel.
Thank you.
I'm Robert Migliaccio at CMA Valley's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Stanton, Virginia. And thanks for sending some of that weather my way, Ed. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mike Weldon from the Hansel Auto Group out here in sunny California. Appreciate
Shon Kingrey, the Vice President of Fixed Operations for the Kaiser Automotive Group up in Madison, Wisconsin, where it's finally not snowing.
We're all over the place. And I'm in Arizona, and it's getting sunnier and warmer where I am. So today we're going to talk about, obviously, just the parts inventory and starting to treat it like the used car inventory. And, you know, everyone, we all know the parts department is responsible for more than half of dealership profits. And I wanted to ask you guys, why do you think that dealerships hesitate to invest in tools and support for the parts department compared to, you know, used car inventory and used car managers? They have tools to help them. So I want to see what you guys think. So we'll start with Ed.
So that's a great question there, Kaylee. the glamour, no matter what store you go to, there's very few stores that really focused on the fixed ops. And when you think fixed ops, first thing you think of is service. So kind of the end of that thought becomes parts, because it's just kind of a gap filler there to kind of keep service moving along. And the focus on used cars, because the dealer, and just to explain to the crowd a bit, the dealer typically only owns the inventory of used cars and parts inventory. And sometimes maybe not even own the used car inventory, but they understand that. They understand that the value of it changes daily. And even though parts value may not change as fast, it's still changing daily as well. But we don't look at that part as having less value on it until after it gets to that 1 year mark. On the used car deal, we're looking at the value of that thing dropping from day one. It's changing from the first day that we get it. So there's so much more attention goes to that. And that's where all the glamour is. Glamour is always on the sales side, and the rest of the fixed ops is to support that. But the better support you can give it, the more it can run.
Absolutely. And Robert, what do you think about that? Why do you think dealerships hesitate to invest in tools for parts?
I think at the end of the day, they look at the processes back there and what's needed for it. And I think we kind of treat it kind of archaic in what it is, and the fact that I'm going to say most people feel that there isn't a lot of need for processes and products back there to keep the parts moving off the shelf. Like Ed said, the big, large focus is always pushed at the dealer level, that it's there to support the service department, and then everything else is kind of the extra icing on the cake if they get anything additional. So, seeing stores utilize it and moving forward is a great benefit I've seen. So.
Absolutely. And, I wanted to add to, it's kind of a question, and we're still on the same question, but when you look at a used car manager and how many cars they're managing, I think a larger operation, maybe, 100 a month or so. I'm just throwing a number out there. But how many parts do you guys think a parts manager is managing? Because as far as I can tell, it's thousands of thousands of part numbers that they're managing. So I would think about parts like as little cars. So Mike, just based off that question, why do you think dealerships hesitate?
Historically, it's always been the glamour has been up front. I mean, you take it all away, we're here to sell cars. And the ownership, a lot of the ownership has come out of the retail side of the house, and they embrace fixed because it's attached to the building. But I think a lot have learned that it's not the back end anymore, it's the backbone of the business. And it's where the foundation of stability is. Whereas, the front end is variable and it changes. And a lot of the dealers' money is tied up in inventory, and that's parts inventory as well. It's just as high as new vehicle inventory. And historically, they didn't want to deal with it. And you guys go back and do your thing and just keep me out of trouble.
Absolutely. And Shon, lastly, what do you think?
I think if you look at the layout of a dealership, look where you put parts. You put them in the back. You build walls around them. You don't let people in, by the way. I mean, God forbid you have a salesperson walk through, let alone a service advisor or service manager. We kind of created our own environment, if you think about it. Look where you put them. You put them in a vault. You give them the checkbook because they're in charge of POs and everything. You trust them with everything, but you don't. It's not inviting. You really don't want, and I know Ed runs a great service. You don't want text on the block parts counter. We truly try to keep people away. So you kind of created it yourself. We all have. But to Ed's point, to everybody else's point, I think everybody now realizes that fixed operations in 2023 is where the money's at. It's not coming from the front end this year. It's got to come from us.
Yes, definitely. And that kind of leads me to the next question is the mindset shift of, if it's working, don't mess with it. I think that we always do that, right? And I want to challenge that. And it's like, why don't we make small improvements to make things that much better? Because even if it is working, there's always room to improve in all areas of our life, especially parts. So, what was my question with that? I'm not even sure. So, why don't parts departments do more of that? I guess is my question. And I'm going to start with Shon. So we're going to work backwards.
Well, I think, and it started here, and it started out of the intro. Look at all the tools that are available for the front end. I mean, there's more CRM tools and, Viata. We can go down the list, and, there's hundreds of them, and look how many are available for parts, like one or two, and they kind of come and go. They're not expensive, by the way, in the schemes of what you're spending on. As you do a buy sell, you start to realize what really is involved on the front end and how many tools they have to sell a car. And parts we give one or two. And I think that's why every time you raise your hand, it's like, wait a minute, you actually need help? Why would you need help? We've never helped you before. Why would we start now? So I think it all goes back to the way it's always been set up. You got to change your mindset. Ted and I and Tully were talking not long ago about we got to get off the walker phase. I think we're going to use that term now, by the way. We got to get rid of the walkers. Okay, you got to stop thinking like we're 100 years old, guys. We got to get with the times, and everybody's scared to change. It's time to change.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And Mike, what about you guys? Because we work with you guys, and I know with the process, we've been working with you for a while, and a lot of things don't change a little, with your guys' process, I think, as far as inventory control goes. But why do you think that, the mindset with parts?
I think we've changed that. I mean, we've progressed. I use the old philosophy: it ain't broke, break it, because it can always be better. Yeah. I'm lucky that the guys I partner with, they're progressive, so it allows you to be creative. Shon, hit the nail on the head, is because you've been surviving this long this way. Well, I don't know about you, but I want to survive in luxury if I can. And I want to be productive, and trying to make our people productive and appreciate their jobs and get engaged and get excited about what they do, so that they feel that there's value. So the ownership has to look at it a lot differently than they have in the past. It's not the survival of the survival. It's you've got to invest. If you invest, you'll get a return on your investment. I guarantee you that.
100%. And Robert, what do you think?
Pretty similar kind of concept here. I mean, it's going to be the going around. We've always kind of kept fixed operations, and specifically the parts side of things, as kind of the way it's ran for however it's been is how it's going to be, no matter what you've done. We may have changed how we look up our parts with parts catalogs and small things over the years, but even the tools provided from the manufacturers as well. When you look at the scope of things, the sales department gets a bunch of feedback and products and tools to use, even just from the manufacturers alone, let alone outside vendors. So, we have a kind of a big undertaking when it comes to advancing the parts department and getting them involved in new products and new processes to get them to evolve with us and keep moving forward and kind of join in the times, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And lastly, Ed, with your guys' operation, because I know it's fairly large.
So you said if it's working, don't mess with it. And I like to challenge that. We are a store that wants to challenge status quo. But let's look at that for a minute. If it's not broke, why mess with it? Well, like Mike said, break it then, because ultimately anything you have can be better. And a good reference point is let's go back to 1903. And that's where our parts departments live for the most part. But let's go back to 1903, and there was the Model T. It put America on wheels. And it did not change for years and years and years, simply because there wasn't any competition. But once there became competition, then it had to improve and it had to get better. And so competition improves everything. This pen, for instance, it's easy to make this pen better. May click too loud when I use it. Work on that. It's easy to make it better than it is to create it. Well, it's already created. Now let's find ways to go make it better. So we got to shift the mind to, hey, what can we get out of it? Not it's functioning, because functioning doesn't mean it's performing.
That's a great point. I love the perspective and how you painted the picture on that one. I want to switch it up and talk about, the DMS and just, do you guys believe that the DMS can do more to help parts managers just easily forecast demand, prioritize which items to stock? Because there's so many different DMSs out there and they're all capable, but do you feel like they could do more for the parts managers? And we'll start with Ed and circle back around.
It's just like the dealership. It's ran the same way, where the DMS is built around the sales department, then the service department, then, oh yeah, we need an accounting department, and we got to hold on to we got to have something to track our parts with. And so it's the afterthought as well. So that's why it creates the opportunity for you guys to come in with PartsEdge and put people on the edge and be able to make things happen, because those tools aren't there with the traditional DMSs. The newer ones that's coming out, yes, they put a little bit more focus on it, because there's a lot more conversation coming about. As Shon said, 2023 fixed is what's going to carry the store. It's always carried the stores in down times, but why can't it carry the store in the good times as well? And so it's up to us to create those products. Hopefully the DMSs will get it and they'll put it in part of theirs. But unfortunately, it's been ran the DMS has been ran the same way as the dealership has. Is let's build it around the sales department, and then everything else is an add-on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And Robert, what about you? What do you think about the DMSs?
Kind of similar concept there. What Ed's gotten on, it's kind of funny when you dig deep into the DMS and what their abilities are and what they're capable of doing. You find that it's very elementary. There's not a lot going on, specifically in the parts department. When you get down deep into it, it'll hold your inventory. It'll allow you to class things differently and source them out. But realistically, when you're looking at different ways and ideas of how to move parts and seeing them in a kind of a easy concept of a chart on a daily basis, it definitely makes it difficult. You have to dig in deep when you're going through a parts inventory to really kind of get an idea. And the majority of the time you end up doing a parts inventory to figure out that scale and scope of what everything is just to get to that point. And that takes, a day or 2, 3 days, depending on the size of your parts department. So, it really kind of weighs on how we do things. And we just expect the computer to say we have it in stock or don't have it in stock and order it if we don't have it, kind of situation, which I think ultimately doesn't give us a full scale or scope of what we're really dealing with on a daily basis of our full inventory. So
definitely. Well, yeah. And there's just going back to the thousands of part numbers that managers are managing. There's a lot of data involved in what to stock and what not to stock. And I hear from parts managers that either are taking over, that they just let what the previous manager had set up, they just kind of do that, or someone that's been there for a while is like, well, it's been like that and I don't do anything because it's working. So, Mike, going back to that question, do you believe that DMSs are, helping parts managers?
The average dealership out there uses about 25% of what that system actually provides. Yeah. And people are fearful of getting in there, or they don't understand it. On the DMS side, I think they can do a better job of organizing their software format, so it's easier to be assessed, because it's kind of convoluted. That I've used 3 different formats over my career, and the add-on service and parts always seemed to be an add-on to something that they bought a part of that they're trying to implement into their system to make us efficient, and it only works half the time. And that's where we then have to search for support mechanisms. PartsEdge is one that one simplifies their process, our process, and allows the manager then to effectively operate his business, because you can get entwined in all these little dark spots within that DMS and not get anything out of it. And then at the end of the day, your obsolescence is extremely high, and your turns are terrible, and you can't figure out why you got a bunch of lefts, and you should have lefts and rights. And so, we need to simplify the process. But one, we have to learn to use the system. And I think if you use the system, along with some of the other supporting mechanisms, you can capitalize on it. I'm blessed. I've got some pretty strong parts managers that we brought along the way that are not stuck in just using that 25%.
That's great. And Shon, what about you guys?
Well, Michael kind of took it from me there. You got to ask yourself how much of your DMS you're really using and not using. You go out to NADA and you go through the booths, and I'm working for a group, by the way, Kaylee, this, that has 3 different DMSs all in one group. So you go out to NADA. Yeah, I know, Robert. You go out to NADA and they show you something like, I didn't even know my system did that. And now you've got the rims and all the other programs the OEMs bring into place. You take over stores as you do buy sales. You find out those parts managers don't even know what their inventory value is. They don't even know how to run obsolescence or how to control it, or really even what obsolescence is. And again, take that one step further. Answer your question, quick, Kaylee. Is the DMS obsolescence? Does it match up with the OEM? Because think about it. A GM OEM, obsolescence is 15 to 13 months, but a DMS says it's 9 to 12. Well, now you get a dealer principal goes to a 20 group and says, well, you have so much obsolescence, but do you? Because if you can't return a part till 13 to 15 months, and the DMS says it's dead at 12, now it's an inflated or a false inventory value, and you're holding people accountable for stuff that isn't true. I think it's time for the DMS to catch up with what the OEMs are doing.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah, because each OEM is a little bit differently with their guidelines on whether or not what time frame you can return a part. And right. I think what we do is, it's 13 months or older or 12 months or older, it's obsolescence. Right. And that actually kind of led me into the next question about manufacturer programs. And really just, do you guys believe that parts managers should completely rely on the manufacturer programs to identify what they should be stocking? And I'll start with Shon, and we'll work backwards.
I think you got to have a parts manager that critiques that. So, for example, first of all, you almost don't have a choice, because if you want return reserve or you want to return anything, you got to go through it anyway. They kind of have you hostage. It is what it is, guys. You're going to walk the path whether you want to or not. But again, you have to find out what that sweet spot is, whether it's 89%, 96%. What depends on the OEM, obviously. But listen, if you run collision centers, we have 4 collision centers. I don't need 5. To Michael's point, I don't need 5 right-hand fenders. All right, it may tell me that I do, but you got to be able to look at that. You got to have a parts manager that has the capacity or the ability to learn to be able to critique that inventory and what it's saying you need to stock versus what you actually need.
Mm-hmm. And maintain that compliance.
Correct.
And making sure you guys set guidelines of this is what we want to maintain. We don't want to stock everything, but yeah, because that's the other thing is.
It's a game. No, I'm sorry. It is a game.
Yeah. Yeah, because they protect what sells. They're not protecting your whole entire inventory, and there are stuff that sells that they're not protecting. So, correct. With that, we'll go to Michael or Mike.
Well, Shon nailed it. A program is a program. Learn the program, master the program, and use it to your advantage. The manufacturer's using it to their advantage. So you need to be just as smart as the manufacturer as what benefits you in your market area. You're sure in the heck not going to stock a bunch of sheet metal that doesn't move, whereas your mechanical parts move 3 times, and you just have to work that flexibility. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important. I think that the emphasis really is on training and understand formats, because it can be all convoluted. You can get totally bound up by it if you don't understand it. So you need to sit down, you need to get a number of people together and then hash it out as to what everybody mutually understands and how we can manage this within our environment to get the best return on our investment.
Mm-hmm. I think you guys hit the nail on the head. Robert, what about you?
There isn't much left to really kind of say. Those two really stole the thunder on all that there, but it is that. I mean, everything is there. It's a game that's played on every manufacturer. Every one of them have benefits that benefit them, and it's a matter of having somebody who's smart enough within your dealership to play the game back and keep yourself set up. I mean, I've seen situations where their automated system tells you to order 1 rotor in, and there's no reason you should have 1 rotor for a vehicle, so you have to have a manager who knows when he sees those things, like Ed was saying before, and Shon, Mike, has to be able to look at that and critique it and say, look, I shouldn't be stocking this one part. I need to be stocking more. But ultimately you have to play the game. You have to work the manufacturer's system, and really needs to kind of pertain and be in your favor at the end of the day, and make sure it's working. Weighing out the cost benefits against having it and not having it, and the majority of the time you end up still playing at the end of the day. There's no way around it. So, I know here we always just make the best of it, do what we can, and utilize whatever we get back to help us with those obsolescence aspects of things, and ways to make sure we're getting the parts that can get back returned when they need to, and then, unloading what we have in obsolescence and moving it on and getting it out of inventory, keeping it fresh.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many great things about the programs. It's just a matter of getting the DMS to work better for the parts manager to help them see how to play the game. And Ed, what about you?
So this might not be the popular one, but I like the manufacturer programs. And the reason I say that is because we like people that come into our stores that are turnkey, that's got all the experience in the world, and there's nothing wrong with them. They don't exist, but they moved into the area, whatever. And we love those because they're turnkey. Well, that's because of experience. They've been down that path. Well, the manufacturer, that's R&D for them. They know what the failure rate of these parts are, so they can tell us what we're going to need before we know we need them, because they've done all the research to be able to do the R&D. They've done all the research to know what those things are. Then with that, when they make those recommendations for those things, they know the bolts that needs to be replaced, rather than us order the part that needs to be, and then we go to put it on. Well, these bolts aren't reusable, and we have to order the bolts. They already know those things. The downside to it is, one, yes, like these guys said, we got to make sure that we don't let it overstock us or whatever else. But the downside is our DMS, or one of the downsides is our DMS. If there's not sales history on the manufactured products that they're recommending, it automatically puts it in obsolescence. And it's not obsolescence, it's just not a sales history. And so it depends on the DMS that you're on how that works. But those two has got to really marry for it to work. So now we got our parts manager trying to figure out, okay, what is the DMS telling me? What is the manufacturer telling me? And we're amplifying their workload. And that's where, like every one of the guys said, you got to have somebody that really understands it, or got to have somebody that's really smart. Well, that's because we're throwing obstacles at them. We're throwing an obstacle with manufacturers say you need this. The DMS says, well, that's going to be obsolete. That's whatever else. And then the quantity that comes along with it. So they have to tie together. They got to do a better job of tying together. But I do support the manufacturing programs because they know what we're going to need before we need it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, the intention of that question was not to throw the manufacturing programs down. And really just, that kind of leads to my next question is, what systems and processes or tools that you guys have implemented to help marry those two to see, the bigger picture? Because that is a big issue, is the DMS and they don't really talk to each other. So Ed, we'll start with you and work our way.
Well, I think Shon said earlier, there's not very many products out there that helps us do those things. And that's where it helps with having guys like you that can come out and help us with those things, because there's not technology that ties it together and helps and really supports it. So we all have to have that parts manager to manually do it. Mm-hmm. And I would love to have the technology that helps us automatically do it. And when that happens, we become more efficient. And so companies like you that can come in and help us be more efficient with those things is key to me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. What about you guys, Robert?
I definitely agree in that scale. We look at my parts manager's time, and him and I meet regularly, and the fact that he spends so much time on paperwork and doing all the little incidentals here and there, he doesn't get a lot of time to actually do anything other than that. So when Ed's talking about having that efficiency and that aspect of having tools there, that's where we really lack in the parts department. We have a guy that has to sit at the desk and really kind of analyze and deep dive into everything regularly, when there's so much more he could be doing with his time to better help to move the department in any aspect of sales or inventory, obsolescence, doing all that. But really kind of spending the time, and putting the two together is a key. And that's where I think we definitely need the products out there to help us kind of move into the future with this stuff.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. And I think the thing to take away too is the parts manager still has to analyze the data and still has to look at everything. It's just like a used car manager. They just have a tool to do it a little bit faster. So Michael, what about you guys?
I got to tell you that the more that I can turn my parts managers into an entrepreneur and not a paper or a number pusher, the more we're going to grow our business. Mm-hmm. And by supporting them and getting them the necessary, either if it's software, hardware, whatever it takes to get that process to flow correctly, I'm going to embrace. I like my parts managers. And I want them to be regular people. Everybody says parts is parts, but it's an integral part of our business. The second biggest investment within a dealership besides vehicle inventory, and we've got to make good use, and we got to put good people in there. And the only way we can put good people in there is if we support them and give them the products and the systems and for them to be good at their job. And we need to simplify that as much as we can. And I think, with your format, I tout it every time I get a chance. I put it in place pretty near 11 years ago, and it's the best move I ever made, because now my parts managers have become humans. And they get out and they talk to you, and they want to grow their business, and they got these new ideas, and they're talking to the sales department about displays and things that they never did before, because now they have the time to do that.
Yep, that's important. And you don't hear that very often, parts people talking to salespeople. So, Shon, close us out.
Well, I think you got to talk about accountability too. As you get into month end, you got to ask, when's the last time you went back to parts and you went with the parts manager to the controller to the office manager and made sure that the reconciliation was done correctly, and that the numbers are correct, and that they match, and that they're in the ballpark and you don't have a problem. When's the last time you did a cycle count? When's the last time you talked about cycle counts? I mean, there's so many things you can hold accountable for a parts manager that we just don't do, because we just pretend they don't exist. And unfortunately, we got to have them. We all know that. But giving them the attention and accountability makes the year-end close a whole lot easier too, by the way. Nobody likes surprises. And there are tools out there that you can do that. And if you teach them, they want to learn too, I promise you.
Right.
They do.
They're parts makers.
They are.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
They are.
I like that. We're going to trademark that.
Yeah.
Well, Kaylee, great job. Great job to the panel. I learned a lot. I took a lot of notes along the way. I think our audience did as well. I'd like to thank everybody. Ed Roberts, Michael Weldon, Shon Kingrey in Fixed Ops Roundtable Central, Robert Miggs from Carter Myers Automotive, and Kaylee Felio. Thank you for putting all this together.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully people will start treating parts like used cars after this.
Great questions and even better answers. Kaylee, if our audience wants to reach out to you at PartsEdge, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can call, email me, go to our website, partsedge.com. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So yeah, just reach out.
All right, everybody. PartsEdge has the tools. You heard it here. And again, the A-list panel here with PartsEdge back at the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Obsessed with creating the perfect inventory? Us too. PartsEdge gives you the tools you need to outpace the competition and provide the highest level of service to your customers. PartsEdge is a powerful tool for parts managers to get the job done faster. Imagine what it was like when the impact wrench arrived. It made mechanics 3 times faster. Getting the job done without the latest technology makes it difficult to keep up. Besides all the other responsibilities you have, you work hard to have all the right parts you need when you need them. PartsEdge was designed by parts people for parts people to make that job a lot easier. PartsEdge saves you 4 to 6 hours every week and can increase your sales by 10 to 20% in just 12 months. Not bad for your bottom line. Take your obsession to perfection with PartsEdge. Call us today to find out what PartsEdge can do for you.
Everybody wants to be part of a bigger story. And to see something like this in such a big industry is a big accomplishment.
When I heard about Rapid Recon, I was like, man, that's ahead of its time. And now I feel like it's absolutely revolutionary. We are changing the automotive industry one dealership at a time.
Just about anybody can tell you that you are struggling or that you might have a bottleneck somewhere. But what do you do about that?
Rapid Recon is the one software that unifies all the departments. You're going to go from chaos to organization.
Reconditioning is all about making a vehicle ready for sale. The whole idea of Rapid Recon is to take 15 days average to get these cars ready to sell and take it down to 3 to 5.
You can see the bottlenecks that we can eliminate. As a dealer, To be able to log into a website or your app on the phone and know precisely where each car is from all your dealerships, that's invaluable.
We can give the decision makers information that they need to make the decision immediately.
It's live. You can log into Rapid Recon and see exactly where you are. What it means is making decisions based on true information. It makes all the difference in the world.
What gets measured gets better over time, and Rapid Recon does that for us. There's nothing like that in the market.
I oversee 19 of our stores. We're processing 2,500 cars a month. You need technology to make it more effective and overall more profitable.
Rapid Recon is more than software. What's unique about Rapid Recon is the people that come with it.
One of the reasons why we're so good at this is because a lot of us did come out of the car industry.
The software is amazing and it's a tool, but we're not software people. We're car people.
And we know the pains that dealers are going through, not because we've been taught it, but because we've lived it.
We get so much praise for our customer service and how well we take care of our customers, and it's because we genuinely care.
They're not going through an automated system. When they call, it's a live person right there. Rapid Recon is just not the name of the company. Rapid means we got to be fast and accurate.
If you want to be as efficient as you possibly can, if you want to be as profitable as you can, you absolutely should have Rapid Recon as your system.
We're a small company, but we're going to change the whole industry.
I'm really excited about how the company's growing. I see us in more dealerships worldwide.
In 5 years, you're going to see that Rapid Recon is a must for every dealership.
We're making a big difference. We're changing this industry in a way that it's needed to change for a long time.
On in. How's everyone out there doing today? Give you a quick tour around Ozark, Fort Lincoln. Got Ryan heading out for a test drive. I had 98 total bays here. Got different quotes on the oil racks. These guys pick their own quote. Get a little ownership. Keep this place, hopefully you guys can see how clean this place is. We're trying to keep this place clean because we keep it clean. Ultimately, it allows these guys a better atmosphere to both keep your car clean as well. Come on, let's go meet a few people. This is one of the busiest shops on the East Coast. This is one of 3 service buildings that we have. Montana. Hey, sir. Montana's got a handful of struts here. We won't keep our own trucking, sir. Thank you. Got a few guys over here hanging out. We'll go over there and interrupt that party. As you can see, there's vehicles in every bay. These guys have as much work as they want to do. Yeah, how we doing? How are you? Great. Dan, what are you guys doing? Working. Making things happen? All right. Cool. I know it's quick, but it's a quick tour around or through Ozark service. Got guys through, I don't want to interrupt too many of them. These guys are just hanging out, having fun, so they're not turning any hours at the moment, but they will be. We'll see you in a few.
Here's Johnny. Please welcome the big shot of BDC, John Traver from Traver Connect.
Welcome back to the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. John Traver is the CEO of Traver Connect. Great name in our industry, a great friend of the Roundtable. John, welcome back to the conference.
Ted, thank you for having us. Pleasure to be here.
John, this is number 20 Fixed Ops Roundtable, if you can believe that. And I want to thank you and your team at Traver Connect for making all this possible.
Well, we're a small part of what you do, and what you guys have accomplished through the fort is, Ted, it's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. And I know there are hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands that would agree. So thank you for being a catalyst for us, creating a place of learning and exchange. This is powerful. So let's keep this thing going.
Let's keep it going, John.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, reading through automotive news recently, I came upon a story where you, John Traver, were a big part of it. You were mentioned. And it was a story, big picture. If I want to just kind of step back for a moment, the story itself was about a trend. It was a trend of growing dissatisfaction by consumers with the automotive service department experience. And there was a study that was quoted in there. I believe it was Carlisle Drucker. Okay. But I want to kind of set the stage with that today. And if it's all right, use our time this morning to ask you some questions about that, if that's okay with you.
I think it's great. It was a very interesting study. What I thought was insightful was the macro view that they took. It's a trend that what they're saying based on the feedback they're getting from consumer studies is it's a growing trend. And the thing is, Ted, if there's someone in the audience that says, gosh, I didn't realize that. Well, you wouldn't know it if you don't pay attention to it as a trend. It's that old adage, how does it go? What gets measured gets managed, right? So I hope dealers are watching your show and they're catching this segment today, Ted.
And John, I don't think it's anything especially new. I think it's been accelerating since, the 80s, if I may use that. All right. That growing dissatisfaction with the automotive service experience and the retail side. So I want to kind of have you take us through that today and tell us a little bit more about your perspective on that.
Yeah. So the thing that we want to remind ourselves of, I think, first is that consumers don't just do business with us in automotive, right? We're constantly being compared, contrasted to their buying experience, shopping experience in other industries. It could be as simple as groceries. It could be as simple as digital, online, Amazon, albeit, you name it. And so I would just say that, for our audience today, whether they're big or small, Ted, not just the larger groups should be tackling this. If you're a single point, this is for you. I would say first word of encouragement is it's an open window of opportunity for every dealership. I think it's one area where you probably will have a hard time overspending in this area. Like, I don't think you can waste money in CX. I think the right CX, and again, I'm sure there's one person right now just said, oh, I can show you how you can waste. I get it. But what I'm trying to do is get everybody going this direction because there's found opportunity in this space. Those that are thriving would be nodding their heads right now on the other side of the screen saying, absolutely, get in the game. The right CX, I think, delivered as a culture, I think is a separator, Ted, in our industry. That's how you can separate yourself from the rest. Mm-hmm.
John, how do dealers know where they stand in this cycle and what their opportunity is?
Yeah, that's great. Kind of Stephen Covey, first things first, right? I think the answer is assess, right? Assess first, Ted. So let's look at the facts. I mean, we're an industry that spends somewhere around 600 PVR in advertising costs to sell a new vehicle, right? Yeah. So that's a chunk. Now there may be outliers there, but that is NADA numbers. Okay. So that's a chunk, especially let's think about this. Inventories are starting to climb. New vehicle sales are slowing. Interest rates are at new highs over the past decade, right? Let's see, we got floor plan expenses popping up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Understatement, right? So that's now becoming something a dealer's got to contend with. So you got those four things. So despite those hurdles, we still work in an industry that churns 3/4 of our customers to the independent repair chains. 3/4. So to me, it's a business practice. If you say this in that article, when I was talking to the interview person, there was surprise when I mentioned that. And it was interesting because clearly this person had been in automotive a long time, but their initial response was, wow, that's unacceptable. Well, what's interesting, Ted, is in our industry, is that a new trend? Honestly, not really, right? It's been around forever. So I will also add that EV may be the one big shift that could reset the thinking around retention for dealers. And so you go, well, why? Well, maybe because the retrofitting costs are high compared to EVs, right? So you're going to spend over $500,000 to ante up and be an EV approved facility for most manufacturers. I would say that CapEx is probably likely to be over $1 million for many. And so a dealer who, reads this needs inspiration, right? They see this interview and I would just say, if you've never been around a Tesla repair facility, take the opportunity to take a look at what that looks like. All those vehicles parked, waiting for their turn to get in. There's only one place really for them to be fixed. And so that's a sneak peek of the not too distant future, kind of get ready. So what are they saying? About 25 million EVs on the road by 2030 in the US. So bottom line is this trend is growing. We spend a lot of money buying a customer. We don't put enough effort and true strategy in retaining those owners. EV maybe opens that door.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Right? Mm-hmm.
We're speaking today, everybody, with John Traver. He's the CEO of Traver Connect, a great friend of the retail community. John, so are there main causes for dissatisfaction, based on the survey data that you're mentioning? I think was Drucker Carlisle and Traver Connect as well.
Yes. Well, so yeah, they have done extensive studies. And as you know, we do lots of surveys and we talk to lots of customers on a regular basis, directly, indirectly, inbound, outbound. The big three that seem to be coming up in CSI and loyalty studies over and over, Ted, are going to be familiar to everybody. One is convenience, one is time, one is cost. And if you want, I can kind of unpack those a little bit in our talk here today, because I feel like convenience should be defined, through the eyes of the caller. And so if you can just think about their journey to you and the touch points that they're going to have, the very first one is something that's near and dear to us here at Traver, and it's the phones, right? And they're asking things like, okay, I'm going to call the dealer. Can I get someone on the phone? How long do I hold? How many times do I get transferred to somebody else before I get the right person, right? So that is part of their journey. Some dealers are implementing AI to try and resolve this. But what you're going to find, and this could be a separate, discussion, but that's not a total solution for everybody. And what you're finding is 20%, 25, 30, 35%, we'll call it a third of callers are going to accept, use, and work their way through their answer with AI. The rest at some point want to talk to a person. So, what I would say is convenience. It really, really starts there. The phones. You're going to want to have some AI. You're going to want to have your phones properly equipped. You want that first scheduling event to be pleasing. You want it easy. You want it quick, right?
John, the phones continue to be, you're right, at the top of the list for all the reasons you're mentioning. All right. So convenience touch points, after the phones, are there other ones that the dealers should be paying attention to, low hanging fruit there?
You betcha. Great question, Ted. So now we got to go to the dealership, right? And so this is what customers are saying. They're saying for many of us, this just isn't a convenient process, right? To reverse dissatisfaction or perceived dissatisfaction, I think dealers, a great place to look for inspiration sometimes is outside our own industry. Yeah. So think Teledoc, Ted. I remember when I saw Teledoc in documents for HR for businesses that I'm part of, and I thought, I'm not sure that's really a good solution. And today it's accepted. I got one of our VPs in a business who had an injury recently, and he told me about his journey through Teledoc. And, it's just fascinating to me to see how far that's gone. So that's an out of the box solution, right? Can't get to the doctor, but I can get you one on the phone and we'll get the process started. The mobile self-storage, it comes to you. You don't go to it. The little cube, Ted, ends up in your driveway. You put your stuff in there and they pick it up and store it till you say for it to come back. How about mobile dry cleaning? How many of us used mobile dry cleaning at some point? And I remember during COVID, that guy became like best friends, right? Mobile groceries. I remember when it started in the early 2000s, right after the internet, kind of got going. And it was sort of I want to say it was a Randall's chain or a Kroger chain in Houston where we lived around signature stores, and they kind of got it up and it crashed. They couldn't keep it going. Here we are full on, and none other than Amazon goes out and buys Whole Foods. Right. And so now you got food delivery. And then, did I mention Amazon? Right. So you got mobile Amazon. The whole thing is built around, we'll bring it to you. So look outside your industry and then look at your industry and say, well, gosh, we've always done it this way. Well, that's where innovation can be your friend. I think in automotive service, Ted, it's about revisiting ways to get vehicles serviced, point blank. So that's options for vehicle pickup and delivery. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yep. It's mobile van. That's warranted. Ed Roberts, shout out, right?
Yes.
And then, by the way, shortage of technicians. I mean, we're still dealing with this. So to me, strategically behind the curtain, I'm thinking, what a great way for us to maybe add a little flexibility into shop loading, Ted. Like, hey, I can't quite meet your schedule, but let me make this more convenient for you. We'll come to you and we can get to you on said date. And now all of a sudden that works for both of us. So to me, those two solutions for remote service, I would no longer be calling those fads or beta concepts. I think, Ted, they're fully embraced by consumers and frankly, now OEMs as well. You got OEMs are reimbursing dealers for these types of services. They want dealers to offer it and they're willing to write checks. So,
yes.
Dealers have made strides towards making service experience better. Case in point, I think waiting areas, right? But I would just tell you this, I'm not the kind of person that's going to sit in the waiting area. I'm too impatient. Right. I would rather pay you to get the vehicle or arrange. Again, I'm just going to be one group. Ted, you may be the guy that's willing to sit there. But what I'm reading and seeing and hearing through the surveys is not all customers across the board are crazy about pastries and coffee, no matter how nice it is. You follow me? Some are, some aren't. One more comment for those that are heavy on the waiters. I was in a store in Florida last year. And they had a ton of people in the waiting area. It was too many. It was uncomfortable. A lot of retired folks, et cetera. Okay. Well, I used their restroom. And their restroom reminded me of, not a very nice place. Okay. A dungeon, right? And I just thought to myself, there's a chain of gas stations here in Texas that started called Buc-ee's. And they're famous for something you'd never guess, Ted. They're famous for their bathrooms, brother. Their bathrooms, they're cleaned on the hour. I mean, it is crazy. You can ask Kara. She lives by one there, not too far. Okay. Yeah. So it's their bathrooms. And they have other features. They're practically a supermarket and a specialty store that also has fuel, but the bathrooms are part of their advertising. They're literally billboards in interstate highways here. So if dealers don't have bathrooms being cleaned throughout the day, we hear this in our surveys. That's why I'm bringing it up. It's worth upgrading your space. Like sometimes bathrooms are too small, make them bigger. Tile, amenities, cleanliness. If you're going to have waiters, make sure that experience. So this is another differentiator to where our customers are going, to the chains, right? So remember, I think less than half of the people are requesting today. We're taking millions of calls a year here. Okay. Yeah. Less than half are requesting to be in the dealership for maintenance and repair. It's when I started this company in 2011, Traver Connect, after leaving ADP, after having Traver Tech, more than half were waiters. I'm just saying more than half are now not waiters. They're willing to drop off or using alternative service. And the other thing about the convenience piece I would touch on real quick, let's not forget the service advisor. They're a vital part of this process. We have people on your show, Tully. I think of you right away in terms of the job you do, focusing on the main thing, which is hours. But how do you get to hours? You get to hours through the hearts and minds of the people on your front line, your advisors. So to me, the human element is so make or break. You can be great at scheduling. You can be horrible in the middle. And guess what they're going to remember? The low points, Ted. So you want to be consistent and have a process. I think like any chain, if you go to, you remember the old MacDonald's commercial, Ted, with the Big Mac, 2 all beef patty, sauce, cheese. Okay, it was made the same, whether we were buying one in Jersey or Wisconsin or Texas, right? You go order a Starbucks and it's made the same anywhere in the world. So predictability produces confidence, in you and your service offering, if you don't have a clearly mapped out process, if you're just dependent on people without a clear process, you're going to have some CX problems. So that'd be my take on that.
John, you really drilled down there into the convenience and time. By the way, here we are back at the 80s. If you recall, a couple of years ago, you and I did an event called Back to the Future. And if you remember that DeLorean, do you remember what was printed on the license plate in the movie Back to the Future?
What was it?
Out of time. Okay. Yeah. So time, it sounds like, is a real key differentiator and to be able to save the consumer time. John, I want to ask you another question, one more if I can. In addition to time and convenience, what about price?
Yeah, well, price is important, Ted. I mean, the question is how important. I think, we perform thousands of mystery competitive shops for dealerships every month here. So thousands, Ted, thousands of unique stores with their competitors. It's one of the workflows that we have. It's a very intricate study for a channel partner of ours. And in those studies, you quickly learn a lot about price. It's more than a number. It's really about listening and hearing the customer's concern. And again, I'm talking an untrained ear could listen to this, Ted, and you don't have to be an expert. And you go, it's important, but it's almost, I can tell now it's not the ultimate thing. I think it becomes the ultimate thing because we're so ugly at so many other areas that are fundamental. It's like, well, you're subpar here, but Ted, so now you're going to have to really be a great value for me. I think we handicap ourselves more than we think. So it's about good questions, to be sure they're asking the right questions, getting the right price. I think for decades, the perception in our space, Ted, you know this, we're more expensive at the dealership, than anywhere else, but that's not always true. And so an entire industry has been built on that one statement, and the actual variance is not as big as, one would actually find out if they did the homework. So there's a part of the market that's going to be price first. I'm not trying to change those people. You got to be competitive if you want your share. And the rest, well, they want more than just a fair price. So if I can close with this, let me leave you and our passionate fixed ops audience with this one thought from the late, great Peter Drucker, who said it well when he penned this. He said this, Ted. He said, most companies don't sell what the customer is buying. Translated, Ted, we're not selling service and parts.
Mm-hmm.
We're selling what customers really want to buy, which is convenience, which is speed, and which is value.
Love it. Everybody, John Traver is the CEO of Traver Connect. He is the authority in the industry on the phones, and he's been my friend for over 30 years. I can tell you as an audience at Fixed Ops that I refer my friends and family in the automotive industry to John Traver when it comes to their needs on all things BDC. So there's no one better than John, and he's very well respected, not just here at the Fixed Ops community, but throughout the industry. So John, thank you for bringing this home and elaborating on the study and shedding a lot of light on that. And you know what? All those touch points are so true. And John, if our audience wants to reach out to you, I know at the bottom I see Traver Connect. I see your website scrolling. I see your email. There's a number on there. What's the best way the people, should they go to the website? What do they do, John?
Yeah, the best way is whatever's best for them. They can call,
Right.
They can send smoke signals, whatever they want. We want to hear from you. And if we don't help you directly, we'll get you pointed in a direction that will. So, thank you for involving us the way you do. Thank you for leading well in our space. And let's keep the energy and outlook the way it is. We're heading in the right direction, my friend. Thanks for your leadership.
John, thank you for all you do. John Traver, everybody, the CEO of Traver Connect, here back at the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hi, John Traver here at Traver Connect. Thanks for joining us on our Service BDC video today. If you've already partnered with us, we appreciate your partnership over these past years. If you're new to us, we look forward to getting to hear your story and come alongside you relative to Service BDCs. When you hear the term Service BDC, the first word for me that comes to mind is calls. That's what really a Service BDC is going to be built around, both inbound and outbound calls.
Those calls are going to load your shop, it's going to drive your RO count, and ultimately, it's going to tee up your next retail unit. One reason the Service BDC is so successful today, so important today, is it has a massive amount of opportunity in the form of those incoming calls. The cell phone changed everything. It's increased the amount of calls to dealerships, and as a result, we have to have a team of people centralized to take those calls. It's always been busy in service, but today, when you ask dealers, they tell you they need help.
With only 3 service writers, it's virtually impossible for my service writers to load the shop effectively and efficiently in order to keep my shop full.
The second thing I'd be thinking about if I were you is, what do my calls sound like? What is our statement of work in those calls? Are we asking for email, address, phone number? Do we use a time and mileage approach to make sure we're pre-selling to any additional needs, or are we just order taking and then trying to take care of the customer when they get there and tell them we need their car all day? So what you want to do is establish a clear roadmap for how your calls are going to be handled. We'll help you do that, whether it's virtually here through our BDC or we do it with your team at your dealership. So perhaps you're like some dealers, when they hear us talk about centralizing the calls here in Dallas, Texas, they wonder what that call might sound like.
One thing I like about Traver is that my customers feel as though they're dealing with someone within my own store. I've had several customers come to my store and ask to speak to Chelsea when my people that realize Chelsea doesn't work there, she actually works in the call center in Dallas.
I have you scheduled for the recall. Was there anything else?
Let me tell you, you're like the most professional person I've ever spoken to, I think.
My pleasure.
Good job.
Thank you.
No, I'm serious. I'm being completely serious. No, we don't need anything else. That was great.
You have a wonderful day.
Okay, you're doing a great job. You sound good on the phone. So
Oh,
when I see Herb, I'll tell him he's a great person on the phone.
We're built for service BDCs, 60,000 square feet of workstations and personnel trained to take inbound calls. There's a handful of ways we can help you. We can help you with a virtual service BDC where we take your calls. We can help you with outbound campaigns, filling in those open spots in your schedule, turnkey, not just getting the customer to call, but actually taking the call and loading it in your scheduler. 3, training for your business development manager, for your business development rep. How do they take these calls? We'll bring them into our customer experience center if they're a BDM, or we'll provide online training for those BDRs. Leadership education for you. You're wondering, what are my KPIs? What should my staffing plan be? We can walk you through this in less than a day. And then tools, everything from texting, mobile payments, even in-dealership software to help your BDRs. So hopefully you see we're built for service BDCs. This is what we do, not what we talk about, and we hope to be talking to you soon.
Whether you consider it evolutionary or revolutionary, change is reshaping the franchise dealer business, and we're not talking about electric vehicles. There's another promising opportunity that demands your attention. It's the fast-growing and increasingly lucrative customer pay parts, tire, and service market. Consider what's happening around you. Average vehicle age is at an all-time high and rising faster than ever. More than 60% of passenger vehicles are 8 years old or older. 25% are at least 16 years of age. Together, this represents 244 million prospective parts, tire, and service targets. We say prospective because the vast majority of these vehicles are being serviced outside the franchise dealer channel. Would you like to capture your share of this nearly $400 billion opportunity? Epicor is ready to help. Our solutions are enabling thousands of automotive businesses to address every customer pay parts, tire, and service opportunity for virtually any vehicle, regardless of make, model, or year. We're helping service providers build customer relationships spanning the full vehicle lifecycle, from the end of the factory warranty to the day the vehicle is scrapped. We're putting the industry's most complete parts, tire, and labor data at the fingertips of thousands of service advisors every day. We've created a faster, more accurate estimating process for customer pay jobs that helps dealers increase average RO and service lane productivity. We offer real-time information on local parts and tire availability and pricing to speed every job, increase customer satisfaction, and boost the dealer's absorption rate. And we're helping parts departments establish real-time visibility and control of their inventories to increase efficiency and reduce operating costs. Epicor is ready to help your fixed ops teams achieve the same impressive results. Own every non-warranty parts, tire, and service opportunity, all makes, all models, all customers. Now you can with Epicor. Contact us today to learn more.
Don't get stuck dancing in the dark. Let's light the way to leadership with Sarah Vantine on our next panel with Quantum 5.
Welcome back to the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Sarah Vantine is with us. She's the Vice President of Sales at Quantum 5, and she has assembled an A-list panel on leadership development skills. Sarah, welcome back to the Roundtable.
Thank you so much, Ted. This is so exciting to get to pick the brains of these amazing leaders in automotive.
You've got great leaders, a lot of great organizations represented. Sarah, everybody here is new to the Roundtable, so that's going to call for an introduction so everyone can let us know who they are. I know you got a great panel ahead, so I'm going to get out of the way, and I'll see you at the end.
Thank you, Ted. Everyone, if you'll just take a couple moments to introduce yourself to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and then we'll get kicked off with our questions. Tony, do you want to kick us off?
I can start. My name is Tony Klarakis. I am the Director of E-commerce and Business Development here at Dan Cummins Auto Group, located in Paris and Georgetown, Kentucky.
I'm Allie Peters. I'm the Fixed Operations Director at Jaguar Land Rover San Antonio with the Cavender Auto Group.
I'm Daniel Govaer. I'm the General Manager at Mercedes-Benz of Easton, part of the Germain Auto Group.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today. So this is a topic that's been really exciting for me to explore, and we have some great questions lined up for these amazing leaders. So to kick us off, I first want to just float this first subject, because this is something that happens in a lot of organizations, and it's something that leaders talk about quite a bit when this happens. And I'd love to get some insights from these leaders to see what they do in their stores when this happens. So, I'll kick it off to Daniel first. We've seen the situation that happens when a person that was a sales rock star or service advisor rock star gets promoted, and now they're taking on this management position, and then they proceed to unfortunately underperform in their new role. In your experience, what are some of the strategies that you utilize in your stores to help them become a better leader in their new role and prevent that from happening?
Yeah, three. I mean, that's absolutely a top of mind question all the time. Yeah, and it's not even, if you kind of back up for a second, it's not even about if I just take someone who's good at this particular thing that are already internal and make them a manager. It's a question that applies to everything when you're hiring, right? So what we normally see in hiring is that we're looking at traits, right? And so one trait that you excel at does not anytime ever mean that you're particularly good at an associated trait or at another trait. But when we're looking at an internal candidate, because most of us really want to be able to promote from within, then we take a look at we have firsthand experience. Part of the thing that any good hiring manager would know is that you're forming a type of bias. That doesn't mean biases are something that we all have, but you have to understand that when you have personal familiarity with someone and you see how you get along with them, that's a like me bias. You see how they operate, there's a familiarity bias to that. So you're bypassing a lot of the normal other checks and balances that you might have in place for evaluating that person's talent for it. But more so than not, in this case, it's not just talent that you need to evaluate, it's motive. Because really what the difference is you need someone to understand the difference between achievement and influence. And those are two primary factors, one as a salesperson and the other as a manager, and they differ in how they look. But those are both the reward systems that you have, right? So as a salesperson, your reward system is those things that you achieve. And as a manager, typically it's how good your influence is and to influence the behaviors that you'd want to see. So if you're used to being if the sense of reward and accomplishment, how do I know if I'm doing a good job, comes to you from the sense of achievement of selling things. It's a single person sport. Then that's how you're used to getting that feedback. And some people are very comfortable with that. But the difference is we need to be able to explain to them, put into words, I actually need you to succeed at influencing a diverse group of individuals to think and operate in the same way, and help them understand the why. And even if they don't realize the why, it's you are setting the example for that. And so first thing is we've looked at motive, basically that. And we've also found it's what your people see you do is what they feel like in their frame of mind you do. So they may not see all of the things that your management staff is required to do. So we show exactly what the KPIs are for managers. We show these are their daily tasks that you may not see them doing. And we encourage them then also to shadow for a day. And so we be completely transparent and show you all the things. These are things that we discuss. And if I could, I mean, I'm not paid sponsor by any means, but we do utilize our training subscription with NCM. And we found it to be incredibly beneficial to send people as they're moving up in your ranks, send them to Used Car Management 1. Send them to GSM 1. It's the first base layer course. And you understand, of course, just because you're going to this does not mean you're coming back as a used car manager, but I want you to have I want you to understand the things that are important to us and those principles. Inevitably, they go to Kansas City for, 2 to 4 days, depending on which classes they're doing. And they come back and I didn't realize that's what being a manager was about. So those are the things that have been most successful for us.
Well, thank you, Daniel. There was a ton of information in there, to unpack for sure, and some great advice in terms of how dealerships can really navigate this. And Tony, I know when we were talking about some of these topics before the session, this was a question that really resonated with you as well. And so I want to pose it to you, as you think about some of the things that happen in a store with your BDC or your salespeople, how do you prevent some of those incidents from happening where you have a newly promoted leader in your organization? How do you help support them to take on this new role?
Yeah, and Daniel touched on a lot of great points there. And, one thing that you can take away from that is engaging in that honest and open communication with those people. A lot of the times what happens is and I hear this all the time, is someone gets promoted, they are given, the things that they have to do, but they aren't engaged with and they aren't helped and trained the right way through to be able to accomplish a job that they're being given to do. So for us as leaders, being able to speak to that person honestly and say, is there anything that you need from me? Is there anything that I can do better to support you? And giving that person also a roadmap down the road that we as leaders see as the end result or the end goal, whether it's, a certain sales number, or in fixed ops, a certain amount of ROs we want to do for the month. It's, making sure that the person sees that vision and understands what we are also doing as leaders to bring them to that goal. We always talk about making sure that the salespeople are, engaged with the sales managers, the general managers, the fixed ops directors, myself as a director. We have to engage with our managers to keep the sales team engaged as a whole as well.
Wow, thank you, Tony. That was some great information too, and that really expanded on some of the points that Daniel brought up in his response. Allie, I want to ask you a totally different question, because this is something I think you have a lot of experience with in your organization too. What do you consider to be some of the best daily habits for a leader to do with their team?
So I love that one. I think that the thought that resonated with me, being a team member and then transitioning into a leadership role, was when I felt known by my manager as a person. And so as far as a daily task, I think this is one that people sometimes forget. Talking to your people as real people, getting to know them and understanding what's going on in their life outside of the car that they sold or the RO that they wrote. And as far as, we all have daily tasks. We have to update reports and we have to send out emails and look at numbers from the day before. And I think that those are all important. But as far as it goes in leadership development, it's getting to know your people and them getting to know you. And I sincerely believe that when you have that relationship with your team and you make it a point to make that happen, the team works together more cohesively to accomplish the goals that we have set.
Now that's a great point, Allie. And having those kind of relationships is so important, because you can't have that professional success without understanding what is going on in the individual person's life on a daily basis. Daniel, I want to ask you the same question too. So, as you consider the daily habits that you as a leader do with your team, what are some of the best daily habits that you would consider recommending people do in their leadership positions?
When it comes to development in general, I think, and really what everyone here is really exemplified is you've got to have some type of laying the groundwork. There has to be some type of preparation, and internal, external, it all goes together to form some type of picture, right? But there's got to be, if you want someone to get to the next level, you have to lay the groundwork for them to do it. So we no longer, this isn't not breaking any news here. We no longer have the luxury of trial and error when it comes to our human resources in the automotive industry. And I think everybody innately knows that, but it's like, we need to enact that. I'm sure every single person on this call benefited from the well-known training system of sink or swim, and we happen to be the ones that swam, right? But we know that even when we were doing it, we knew that wasn't the right way to do it, and so we know that we just don't have that luxury. We don't have the sink or swim luxury or the trial and error luxury. So every day is a good opportunity for you to look at all aspects of who your human resources are. Right. And understand, we did this in a quarterly meeting. Actually, we pulled our year-end expenses and showed, so it's unmistakable that other than, construction projects, people were our greatest, most valuable asset in the dealership by dollars, by time, by everything. Right. So if I showed you something on your balance statement that had that many commas in it, like, you should be paying attention to it. And especially when you look at it like you want it to grow exponentially. Like, I don't just want those commas, I want more. And so then those are the people that are going to bring it to you. So the thing that we look at every day is, what can I do that would be new for somebody today or this week? What can I do that that this person next week could look back and say, this was one thing I moved up in. This was one thing I understood that I didn't understand before. And I would just probably also end with saying that we've never been particularly good in the industry about explaining the why. And it's the single most important thing that they can understand for their day to day is the why. So if you just zoom out a minute and, from what your daily tasks are as a salesperson or as a service advisor, I need you to zoom out for a minute and understand the why we do this. What's the bigger sense of it? And then this is very much towards what Allie said too, is you have to know that I trust you. I work with managers that I trust. I work with people that I trust. And if like it completely slips your mind and there's nothing else you did that day, find someone that you could look at and say, you know what, I want you to know, like, I trust you, right? So do as you see fit in what you're doing, right? And just know that you have my trust. And that's probably one of the best things, if you did nothing else today, that you could do to somebody on your team that would propel them forward.
So Tony, as we're leaders on this panel and as we're talking about some of these things that we're seeing in the dealership, I think the customer experience, of course, comes top of mind for all of us as we consider what's going on and what the expectations are for our customers. And what would you say are going to be the most critical skills that leaders in automotive will need as customer expectations and needs continue to change?
So what leaders need to do is they need to look at their communication funnels from top to bottom. And that's from the moment a customer decides to start shopping, and that's, in search marketing, all the way to when they complete a vehicle purchase, along with all the communication that goes out after fixed operations, right? With us being so reliant on the consumer choosing us, we need to make sure that us and the way our dealers perceived is positive in the industry and in the segment, right? Automotive dealers haven't always been looked at as the fun place to go to, right? And we have to attract that buyer. And with brand loyalty continuing to decrease, we need to make sure that we pivot our messaging and what we want to be conveyed onto the customer in a positive light. So being able to coach our team what to say, from the BDC to the sales teams to the service teams and everyone in between. It's very, very vital for us to continue to change with what we're seeing in the marketplace. And with improvements and introduction of processes surrounding digital retailing and delivery services, cross country. That I know some dealerships will ship cars anywhere for very little to no money out of pocket, and even third parties offering market extension products, that increase your advertising map from 50 miles around a dealership to 300. Right? It's making it easier for the dealer's message to get out there. But what is that message? Right? What are we trying to tell consumers? What is different about our dealership or anyone's dealership, and why they should choose them? So as consumers are able to find cars easier and make a more decisive decision on what they want to buy, and finding that inventory or whatever it might be easier, we need to make sure that the messaging correlates and resonates with that person.
You're so right, Tony, because I mean, really one skill, you summarize there is that blend of the customer experience with your brand experience and the employee experience. All three of those pieces are so important to customer retention, and managers have to have those skills in order to really be effective in their individual marketplaces. Allie, I want to ask you the same question too. So, as you think about this and you think about the skills that leaders in automotive are going to need to have as customer expectations change, what do you think are going to be the most critical skills for people to have in leadership?
So I think that a sincere care about people is going to be at the core of who we have to be as leaders, and the people that we surround ourselves with on our team that are going to be responsible for taking care of those customers. Because very similar to what Tony said, the market has changed so much, and that customer experience is now a very different from start to finish experience than it used to be. And customers have the choice, and we want to be the place that they choose to do business with because of the way that we make them feel, and the way that we take care of them, and the way we walk with them through the process from start to finish. Oftentimes on our side of the world in fixed ops, it's not a fun experience. Even for the regular scheduled oil change that everyone knows is coming, it's like going to the dentist for a cleaning. It might not hurt, it might not be that expensive, and you planned to be there, but you still have to arrange your schedule, change up your routine, and you have to have a pattern disrupt in your day. And so that's the easy stuff in fixed ops. The others are not as easy and fun and as, manageable, so to speak. And so I believe that people who care about the customers and truly want to be there with them while they're going through something uncomfortable will be able to provide that consumer experience that we're talking about.
No, that's so great, Allie. And I really agree with you on all of those pieces. It has to be something memorable. It has to be something that involves the customer. And you're right. That's something like a service visit that isn't necessarily the most exciting thing for them to be doing in their day. So how do we make sure that we meet their expectation? How do we equip our leaders with those skills? And, just to pivot a little bit, we've talked a lot about current leaders. We've talked about people in the organizations today, but there's probably a lot of people listening to this that want the opportunity to become a leader in their organization, and they want to continue to improve their career. They want to continue to grow with their families. They want to keep going in automotive and have that leadership opportunity. And so this is often something that I get asked, which is, Daniel, I want to field this to you first. If you had one piece of advice for people that are looking to become a leader in their organization, what would you say is the top piece of advice that you could give them?
Well, I don't know if this would necessarily be the top piece of advice first, but I will say that if you're at an organization and you do want, because what we're talking about is discretionary effort, right? We want people that will want to give us discretionary effort, meaning above that, which is normally expected for them even to do a great job. If you're in an organization where the path to your growth is not clear to you, or has never been talked about with you, or in general in the organization that you're in, if there's not a way for you to understand first on your own what growth is and what it looks like and what it takes to get there, what we're seeing a lot of is people moving to us because we have that, and their organization they were from did not. So the first thing I would say probably as advice is to the organizations themselves. Don't lose people because you didn't show them a way to go. And if you're looking and saying like, I would really like to be a manager in my organization, for us, we want to make those things pretty clear, because we don't want to have the conversation about like, what's it take for me to be a manager, right? Or someone who, is in a field in part of the dealership where another manager isn't necessary, but they come to you and say, I want to be a manager. And it's like, what are you hoping to achieve from that? No. So let me first tell you what the organization is looking for. And then clarity should be, you and I can discuss that and make sure that everything is, you gain clarity to that. And so maybe the first piece of advice is if a growth plan, if any type of growth and learning forward isn't something that you know anything about in your organization, not because you haven't tried, but because it's just simply not available. Yeah, I hate to be that guy, but that just might not be the place for you to grow.
Now, that's such a spot on point, because you're so right. It's something that you have to have a roadmap. You have to be able to see what it takes to get to that next step. And if you don't have a growth plan and you don't have that outlined in your organization, then you are going to lose out on those individuals that are looking for that next piece in the puzzle and for themselves to level up or continue to grow in what they do. And I want to ask Tony and Allie the same question too. So Tony, I'll field it to you first, but same question that I just asked Daniel. If you had one piece of advice for people looking to become a leader, a future leader in their organization, what would it be?
It would be to be the leader that inspired you, right? We've all had a mentor or someone that we learned from or looked up to and thought, wow, they're the reason we are progressing or that company's progressing, and it doesn't even have to be someone in your dealer group or even in the industry. It can be anyone that you looked up to and thought that person is an amazing leader. And we all subconsciously look at someone and try to mimic their good qualities and, take the good. And that's what I encourage other people that are trying to become leaders or trying to become managers do, right? Take the good, learn from the bad, and just continue to cultivate your own way of doing things, right? And don't be afraid to fail. Right? Success is never a straight line. If it was, it'd be a lot less success stories out there because it'd be common and easy to do. So, just learn to be yourself and learn to be that good leader from whoever you learned it from.
That's such a great point, Tony, because you're right. There's so many different people that have influenced us to be the kind of leader that we are today. And those mentors are so important to our development and how we approach leadership. And so, Allie, take us home with this same thought and same question. Your piece of advice for people looking to become a leader in their organization, what would be your top piece of advice for them?
So I would say do the job before it's yours. And when I say that, I mean, be the person who, if you're in an advisor role or a sales associate role, do everything that you possibly can to prevent that customer or that situation needing to tag in a manager. Show your manager that you are capable and you are able and you're willing and you want to do that. And frankly, that you don't want them to be involved because you can do it so well. And I think that is something that can continue through the thread of a career as different people step into different roles. But I think that when you are capable of helping someone else, because ultimately that is our job as a leader in an organization, I think you step up and you do that. And it becomes extremely obvious to those around that if you're consistent with it and you're actually effective at it, people know that you're the person that you can go to for help before you have to get your manager involved. And then it's a no-brainer when that opportunity comes around because you've already earned the credibility that leader needs in the next role.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice, Allie. And thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that. I have one last question to really bring us all home. So this is our lightning round. I have one question I'm going to ask all three of our panelists today. And this is 20, 30-second answer. I know this is a tough question to compile in that little narrow window, but there's a lot of different areas of focus that dealerships are talking about this year. There's a lot of opportunity in sales and BDC and fixed operations. So I'm going to go around starting at the top. Tony, I'll kick it to you first. But what would you say, lightning round question, what is the biggest opportunity for dealership leadership to focus on this year?
I think I alluded to it earlier, and that's understanding what your dealership looks like to your immediate community and the far-reaching community and potential customers, right? What do your reviews look like? What does your website look like? The communication coming from your staff, your purchase process, your servicing process, what does that all look like to that consumer to hopefully win them so they become your customer?
Perfect. Allie, same question. What is the biggest opportunity for dealership leadership to focus on this year?
Training. So I sincerely believe that as the world continues to change, that we need to make sure that the team that we have in place has all the tools and resources that they need to be effective, because now it's more about the quality of the work that we're doing versus the quantity, which we have seen in the past. And so I think training, I think interpersonal skills, I think salesmanship, communication, the technical training that goes along with the product that we work with. So training all the way around.
Daniel, what is the biggest opportunity for dealership leadership to focus on this year?
The biggest opportunity is that there is so much opportunity. You can choose to do things differently. You should be naturally curious. You have the opportunity to redefine. We know nothing is the same and nothing's ever going to be the same. I mean, if that, really after this 3 years, we know that. So be curious, look at roles, see if they can be redefined. They can be. Schedules can be redefined. What you utilize your time with can be redefined. It's an opportunity to be naturally curious and make changes that you've always thought about. And if not, at least start thinking about them.
Well, Ted, we're at time. We're at the end of our panel. What'd you think?
Sarah, what a great panel. What great talent here. Tony, Allie, and Daniel. Magnificent. I took a lot of notes, Sarah. Okay. You got 3 great leaders here. Great material, great content. I tell you this, Sarah, I want to invite everybody back because we didn't have anywhere near enough time today. So this is a
there's
fantastic
so much.
panel. Yeah. And Sarah, great topic also, leadership, right? So
also, I feel like I was the only one that read the 80s assignment correctly. So I feel I mean, the background, okay. I mean, that's computer provided.
I want to thank the panel. Great material, leadership development, Tony, Allie, and Daniel, and of course, Sarah Vantine from Quantum 5. Sarah, if our leaders watching today want to reach out for more information to you at Quantum 5, what's the best way to do that?
Yes, the best way to reach out on the ticker below is my personal contact information. You can email me at sarah@quantum5.ai or call the phone number on the screen as well, 480-908-5003, or check out our website, quantum5.ai.
Great. Quantum 5 is a leader, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody. The Leadership Development Panel here back at the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Presenting the Quantum 5 mobile app, the perfect companion in building frictionless customer experiences. After you complete your first in-person learning experience with our team, you'll enter the Quantum 5 world by receiving a text inviting you to download the app. Follow the steps from that link to download the app and verify your phone number. Then you're in. You'll then receive a congratulatory message and an introduction from Dave O'Brien, CEO of Quantum 5. Next, you'll select your social style, or you can take a quick assessment to determine it again. Once you choose your avatar, you're ready to get started. You must complete 1 card of each social style before you can unlock more personalized journeys. Next, we take you to the dashboard of the app, your one-stop source for all the information you need about your current progress, news, or daily quick tiles. Quick tiles are customizable tidbits of knowledge, quotes, or maybe a question to help you think about interactions you've had during your day. You can even configure the app to send you quick tiles during the day, to help you get engaged in the morning or to reflect on your day in the evening. Learnings are grouped into cards that have beautiful art to help you visually catalog your achievements. You can collect and eventually share these cards with your colleagues if you find one useful or memorable. You can see the progress of all your active cards right here on the dashboard. When you're ready to jump back in, simply select your card. You can tap to access your activities and track your progress, or see a summary of the character where you can also record notes personally related to the social style type. Here's an example of a video scenario. The video is presented, and the user can select the answer to progress to the next question. You can even turn your device sideways to see the video in full screen.
I've never driven a Raptor before.
Learnings on the card vary. This can be as simple as asking a multiple choice question, or as complex as a video scenario with multiple questions about the scenario. Community managers can send newsfeed items to your device. They're shown in chronological order with the most recent article first. When the article is no longer relevant, like an announcement of an event, it will automatically disappear from your feed. You can tap the View All button to see an expanded view of all the newsfeed items available. Depending on where you are on your learning journey, you might be able to start a new card. These cards will be shown in this section in stacks. Based on which card you choose, you can progress forward in your journey, or you can stay at this level and learn more about the current or previous topics. As mentioned earlier, once you have completed one card from each social style, more cards will become available. We're constantly creating new content, which will be distributed to members based on the journeys they're on. You'll receive a push notification when new cards are added to your journeys, so you can keep on learning. Your completed cards are always available for you to review. Help is a tap away. The Support tab opens an ongoing private chat between you and your community managers to help you with any issues you're experiencing. This concludes our quick tour of the Quantum 5 mobile app. Thank you for watching.
We're all about the 80s culture here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Here to shine a light on the culture of everything automotive, I invite you to join me and Ted Ings for our interview with the President and CEO of CDK Global, Brian MacDonald.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, back to the 80s. It is a great honor to present the Roundtable with Brian MacDonald, the President and CEO of CDK Global. Brian has been a successful executive for a diverse set of companies spanning a 30-year career, including some very well-regarded brands like General Motors, Dell, Hertz, Computer Services Corp, Ally Financial, and Sunoco. Brian, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. It's great to be here.
Kara and I have looked forward to this interview for some time. So congratulations, Brian, on all the success that you and CDK Global are having in the market.
Thank you very much.
So
it's a lot of fun too.
All right. So kind of to get things started and set the stage, here we are, middle of the second quarter. And I've got to ask you, based on your depth of experience in the industry, Brian, what's your view on the state of automotive retail, here in the middle of May?
Well, look, it's not as good as it was the last couple of years, but it's still relatively good. So I think you have, the last couple of years have been, very good for the retailers. Balance sheets have never been stronger. Inventories are coming back to normalized levels, and sales are moving up. Still at pretty modest levels. So I think, in the first quarter, the SAR was, somewhere around 15 million units, which is pretty mild by historic standards, but it's still pretty healthy in terms of price realization, et cetera. And so I think the industry is in a good place. I think retailers are in a good place in terms of their balance sheets and the financial success they've had the last few years.
Wow. And as a young woman who's worked in a dealership for almost 4 years, Brian, I have to ask you, what are your thoughts on the strength of culture in dealerships when it comes to recruiting more women like me and young people in our industry?
What I see that's really exciting in our industry is I see dealerships really starting to focus on the next generation, younger people. Younger people are becoming the predominant car buyers, and when I say younger people, I'll say 35 and below. And so I really see dealerships more broadly looking to hire that next generation of talent. I've recently spent some time with a group of students from Northwood at a recent NADA. And when I visit dealerships, I see that demographic changing. I also see a real interest in particular around bringing more females and more diversity into dealerships. We at CDK we sponsor fueling. We call it a fueling scholarship, where every year we award 5 scholarships to minority students whose parents work in dealerships. And so I think there's a multi-tenanted view of how do we get our dealership employees to be younger and more diverse, which is really important.
That's amazing to hear. And I know some of the Northwood students are actually going to be on the roundtable. So I love to see, us as an industry being able to help younger people internally, take a career in automotive. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I tell people in general, but young people in particular, I mean, there's never been a more exciting time in this industry. So if you step back and think about it, for the first time in 100 years, the products are changing, right? We're still at very early stages, and it will take a long time. We're going to make a change from ICE vehicles to EVs, right? And that, there hasn't been a real fundamental change in the vehicles, a revolutionary change, in 100 years. And so that's happening. Second of all, you have a move to connected cars, right? So the cars are increasingly connected, and that creates a world of possibilities for both OEMs and dealers. And then the last thing you have is the way that people want to buy. And everyone is on a spectrum, but the car buying experience is changing dramatically, and people want to have an omni-channel experience where they can start to buy at home and then go as far as they want in the transaction, maybe stop it for a little while, restart it, go into the dealership, go back home, do some more work on it. And so that's a fundamental change in the way that people are buying. And again, back to your point, Kara, that's been driven, accelerated really by 2 factors. One has been COVID, but number 2 is the increasing prevalence of younger people buying vehicles, and younger people want to buy vehicles much more like they would, buy a book off of Amazon, if anybody buys hardcover books anymore, or buy a shirt off of Amazon.
Absolutely. And you touched a little bit about the OEMs. So what role do you see OEMs playing in the future of the retail experience? Can you touch on that a little more?
So, I mean, OEMs and dealers need to work together. That's my theory. What OEMs really want is a consistent brand experience across all of their dealerships, right? And to do that, they have to work in concert with their dealers. And that's where CDK comes in. Because if you think about the automotive ecosystem, you have OEMs, you have dealers, and you have retail customers. Who sits in the middle of that? CDK sits right in the middle of that. We're the system of record, for over 50% of cars sold in North America. I know this is a fixed ops seminar, so 53% of the repair orders opened in North America are open on CDK systems and service, via CDK. And so we sit in the middle of that ecosystem. And so what we see and what we really try to accomplish is to work together with our OEMs and dealers and create the kind of experience that they both want, for their retail consumer that's appropriate for their brand, for their vehicle, and their market.
Love it. Brian, these past 3 years, the dealers have proven to be extremely resilient. All right. Amazingly resilient. And, gives us a lot of satisfaction with what's happening. You mentioned the omni-channel experience, and I want to come back to that. It seems that customers want a more convenient experience, like you mentioned, not only in the car buying process, but now it's worked its over to service and parts. When I went to make a service appointment recently, I did a lot of that online, okay, and did a lot of the pre-work ahead of time. And we're seeing things in the market now like mobile service going to the customer. Tesla's been doing things like that. We see some of the OEMs now have big initiatives on mobile service. And of course, customers are interacting with a device. What are your thoughts on how is that going to play out? Is that going to continue to grow? And, CDK's role in all that as well?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is that, as an industry, whether it's CDK, whether it's dealers, whether it's OEMs, that we meet the consumer where they want to be met, right? And so if a consumer wants to start the car buying experience or the setup for their service appointment from home, we need to facilitate that, and we need to facilitate it as far as they want to go. And back to my earlier comments, having that brand experience that you want. So for example, we just launched in partnership with Toyota, Lexus, what's called Smart Path. So it's our CDK service tool. Again, we open up 53% and close 53% of the ROs in North America, and we've partnered with Toyota to have a white label version of our service tool that meets the needs of the Toyota and Lexus brand. And as you know, those are fantastic brands and with very high brand standards. And so I think that's a really great example of where together working with our dealers and our OEMs, we have a product that's specifically designed to meet their customers the way they want to meet them, meet their dealer needs, and specifically designed for that OEM and their brand and how they want to approach the retail customers. And we're rolling that out now. We're quite excited about it.
We've heard great things about that, Brian. And just to follow up, a little more information, if you don't mind. How else is CDK helping those OEMs and dealers be successful, both today and in the future, with the various initiatives and things that you're working on? That market share of 50% plus of all repair orders, that's extremely impressive.
Yeah. So first and foremost, on the omni-channel side, we have the best digital retailing tool in the market, the highest market share digital retailing tool, known as Roadster. And we work with OEMs to white label that to create, again, the front end of the buying experience that OEM would want, a specific OEM would want, or a specific dealer group would want. And just to allow the buying journey to start at home and to create that seamless in-store, out-of-store experience. And so that's kind of the first place where we're helping both OEMs and dealers. Second place is around efficiency. Continuing to modify our system to make in-store dealer processes, and I'm talking about stuff that we often forget about when we talk about the business. Accounting, payables, receivables. Back office functions. So we have a big effort on at CDK to make a lot of those processes simpler. For example, we just made our 1099 process very simple. And so why does that matter? Well, dealers, like all other employees, are looking to be more efficient as the economy has, some headwinds to it. We're all having problems hiring and retaining, the right employees. And so that's another factor where if you can get more efficient with your in-store operations, then that helps your cost structure, helps your velocity, et cetera. And then again, in fixed ops, I think we have the richest suite of products in fixed ops, and we continue to evolve that in terms of CDK service and what we're doing to help the fixed ops department.
Wow. And to touch back on dealerships in particular, with so much changing in our industry and technology expanding, especially with EV production ramping up, what do you think the future holds for dealership personnel?
Well, again, I think it's a great industry, going through a lot of change, obviously. But if I think about CDK, CDK was acquired by Brookfield for $8.5 billion. And I like to say that's a lot of money everywhere except in Washington, D.C. That's not a lot of money in Washington, D.C., but everywhere else, that's a lot of money. And our basic theory and our $8.5 billion bet is that dealers are here to stay, and dealers will have a long and successful future. And if you've ever tried to raise any money, it's never easy to raise money. But trying to raise $8.5 billion is a little bit harder than that as well. And to raise that money, we had to convince investors that dealers are here to stay. EVs are not going to destroy the profit pool in the service area. Consolidation will continue. CDK will continue to modernize and improve its products. And that will continue to play the central role in the industry between dealers, OEMs, and retail customers, and we'll continue to stay right in the middle of that very successfully. So I think we at CDK and Brookfield, we've really put our money where our mouth is, $8.5 billion worth, believing in the dealer model. So I think the industry is very, very healthy, and dealers are here for a long time to come.
Wow, I love that positive outlook. I know that we all love to hear that in this industry. And what do you think dealers can expect from CDK as we look forward through the rest of 2023 and on to 2024?
Yeah, I think more innovation for sure. We have as we're modernizing our product, and so we'll be rolling out what we call Unify. And we have a series of modernized workflows to make it easier for dealers, more intuitive and more efficient for them. We'll continue to evolve our service products, and we have some exciting things. We're not going to announce them today, but in a few months we'll have some announcements as we have our CDK Connect event in October. But we'll continue to innovate our products and work with our dealer customers, and help them. At the end of the day, I always tell our employees, our job here at CDK is to help dealers sell and service more cars. That's our fundamental job. It's pretty simple, and that's what we're committed to do.
Brian MacDonald, on behalf of the Fixed Ops community and the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for being with us today. Great honor, Brian, to have you.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Kara.
Everybody, Brian MacDonald, CDK Global, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
These are the best moments, when stress fades away and life can be enjoyed to its fullest. And helping people connect to these moments, that's what you do. Every day. Helping them find the car that's just right for them, with an easy flow from website to showroom to financing. Ensuring that their car runs safely. By sending reminders to show you're thinking of them and scheduling service that fits their busy lives. You're even helping keep their personal data protected. So times like these are worry-free. And we're here, behind you, every step of the way. Through relationships built on years of listening and understanding, we bring the needed strength, knowledge, and experience to give you, our customers and partners, real peace of mind. Through our technology, we unify dealers, manufacturers, and software developers, sharing expertise and boosting collaboration for everyone's benefit. And by envisioning a future of innovative solutions, open platforms, and shared outcomes, we can shape our industry for years to come with the experiences consumers want. We don't take this unique opportunity for granted. The chance to do something truly special, to work at the heart of this industry, connecting it at every level, and taking it to new heights. We make the connections that move you. So together, we can create more moments like these.
Take a moment now to pause your tapes and pull out your phones to scan the QR code on your screen to vote for the Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the end of the event. Remember, every vote counts, so make sure to vote for the 5 speakers or panelists whom you think are the best and most rad speakers on the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And don't forget, you can only vote once.